Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. I am Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hey.
Hi, Janet Garcia.
Hey.
And special guest, Joe Juba.
Yes, hello.
Welcome to the podcast, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we couldn't not have you on. We're talking about God of War Ragnarok, for Christ's sake. This whole thing is actually happening. We actually have things to talk about here because we're recording live because we just got done watching the big PlayStation showcase, which if you didn't watch, you should go through and look at some trailers for this thing because it was pretty fantastic. So we're going to recap.
It was E3. It was E3.
E3 in September.
I feel like that's right though. I mean, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I don't know if it was like totally on the same level of an E3 press conference, but it's like if you condense a press conference down to 40 minutes or so, like it was pretty close to that caliber. It was good stuff.
It was fantastic.
I don't think it's even pretty close. I think they nailed it. I think KOTOR, like that, that would have been a huge E3 announcement,
Instead, Jason Schreier just has to talk about it in some interview at MinnMax and completely ruin the surprise for everybody. But look, we'll get into all that stuff. There's a lot to recap. We're going to talk about all that good stuff. Kyle, if there's time, we're going to talk about what's on the tip of everybody's tongue, the Virtual Boy.
Finally.
Very random.
And then hopefully the Artful Escape, a little bit of time in there for that as well. And then back half of the show, we have
some F.I.S.T. too. Let's throw that on the pile.
Okay, hang on. F.I.S.T. Only if you can tell me what is after the subtitle in that.
Oh, no.
Shadows of
Shadow Forged?
Shadow Forged Torches. Anyways, we'll talk about
Shadow Torch.
I think that sounds right. We'll talk about all that good stuff on this episode of the podcast. But before we get to any of that stuff, we're going to kick things off with a little thing that we like to call the community kickoff. We're taking one question and bringing it up to the top of the show. This, Joe Juba, is from Doreen Clyer, who says, hey, fall is almost, hang on. Sorry, I was doing my Doreen impersonation and then stumbled over my words. Fall is almost upon us, and summer is slowly coming to an end. What's y'all's favorite gaming season? Is there one that tends to have games you enjoy more than others? Classic questions, Doreen. Joe, you're our guest of honor. Kick it off, dude. And then everybody else, feel free to jump in and disagree with him as quickly as possible.
Oh yeah, just shoot me right down. No,
yep.
but really, I think that there's a correct answer to that, and that's my answer. And the answer is fall. Because I mean,
Joe's
really,
also a person who thinks the Mass Effect trilogy is one game. So let's slow down.
Long history of being wrong about many things, Joe Juba. But the fall, you may plead your case, sir.
Well, no, okay. So I have a lot of personal experiences and nostalgic connection and stuff to gaming in the fall. But I think if you zoom out from me specifically, fall is just when the biggest stuff always hits. I think for most people, you're going to have the highest concentration of games that you're excited about in, the pre-holiday months.
That's the old standard. But I think you should combine when gaming's at its best. And in my mind, that's a good Minnesota winter. Janet, I'd imagine it's a lot like the Chicago winter, right? And nothing better than playing a good JRPG. Yeah, just sitting huddled. I have a beautiful quilt on my couch back here that I can bundle myself up in and just play some long games when there's no pressure to go outside ever again. I know you can catch up on a lot of the fall games in the winter. Plus, if I may vouch even further for winter, this January is stupid packed for games. So I think specifically this January is going to be the best time for gaming.
I feel like even though January and February, I guess, are part of winter in terms of it's cold as hell.
Yeah.
It's to me, that's beginning of the year. If I'm thinking gaming seasons, I mostly use human seasons, but I think of more the waves. There's all the regular seasons, but for me, January and February are beginning of the year. It's no longer winter. It's just beginning of the year, which is normally very slow and kind of empty.
Yeah, that's
except for this year.
That's some California talk, Janet.
So when you talk about human seasons, are there not 4 human seasons? There are 5?
Well, I removed the part of winter and I replaced it with blank beginning of year where you're cleaning up. For me, I think fall is the easy answer, but I'm going to zag and go with kind of the time we're in now, because I think this is like the ramp up season. It is like the, you know, the rising, if you're thinking of like conventional narrative structure, it is the rising action to the fall, which is like the climax of games. The falling action, of course, is winter. Like everyone knows this, right? So I like this kind of time because I still have the optimism of, oh no, I'm gonna be ready for award season. I'm gonna know a lot. I still have fooled myself into thinking I can do it all. And I'm trying to like quickly, you know, shove everything onto my plate before like the fall massive dessert buffet comes and I just gorge myself and then pass out and then I wake up in March.
Honestly, I feel like today is the tipping point because right now for me, it's like, I should play more Returnal and I'm only a little over halfway through Resident Evil 8. I feel bad about that. And then today it's just like, game over, dude. You're so screwed because we have WarioWare Get It Together coming out on Friday. Tales of Arise is getting shockingly good reviews, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. Life is Strange is apparently good. You have Deathloop coming next week. F.I.S.T. Shadows of the Torchforged is out now. Like there's so many games that have really snuck up and now it's just there's no escape and now we all have to get swept away until the mad scramble ends when the new year begins, I guess.
Two quick things.
Yeah.
It's easy to remember F.I.S.T, Hanson, because it's what the subtitle is, the letters in order. Forged in Shadow Torch, F.I.S.T.
Smart. God,
what does that
games
mean?
are so smart.
Oh, that I have no idea.
Kyle
We'll
will
find
tell
out
us.
from Kyle. Kyle knows, right? That's like the whole game.
Oh yeah.
I know. I remember back in the GI days, there always was that sort of like a tipping point, a point of no return somewhere in September where you had to stop fooling yourself that you would catch up on any of the games that you meant to catch up on for any end of year stuff.
Yes.
Up to that point. And like there's always that point in September where you just it's almost like you're a big locomotive and you just have to cut the cars behind you so you can maintain speed and keep going forward. Like
Yeah, it's exactly that. Yeah. Speaking of which, Joe, are you cutting the car for Tales of Arise? As a JRPG fan, I don't think I've ever heard you talk about the Tales series, but like this thing's reviewing well. And I don't know if it's just the hardcore Tales fans, but like I love Tales Destiny 1 and 2 and Symphonia, and I haven't really dove in since. But are you going to be on board for this one?
You know, I'm not sure. I feel the same way about it that I felt about Scarlet Nexus, and I never played Scarlet Nexus.
Okay.
So, but I still feel like I'm at that sort of like 50-50 point. I could check it out. I've never been like a devout fan of the Tales series, but like I did enjoy Symphonia. Played a little of Vesperia and enjoyed that. So,
right.
You know.
Okay, it has a chance. All right, we should dive into the whole kit and caboodle, the whole meat and potatoes, the whole cookies and cream, the Abbott and Costello, the PlayStation Showcase 2021.
No, more, please.
That's
more
what I was
examples.
thinking too. I'm glad someone said it. I'm gonna need like 4 more examples to really dive in.
The Laurel and Hardy, the Salt and Peppa,
The Jack and Daxter.
and the Ratchet and Clank. That's right, everybody. The PlayStation Showcase 2021. A lot of hype building for this one. I feel like the entire internet was rumbling with, this is the real deal, this is going to be good. And it basically lived up to that hype. You had big reveals for things we already knew, surprises that could not be more out of left field, some real humdingers we can unpack here. Kyle, they started the show with it. We should probably start our show with it. Yeah, KOTOR. That was a big one for you?
Well, okay. I it's a big for me because I never played the original.
Ooh,
and
perfect.
That means it's
oh
like,
my God.
I think I bought it on iPad and that was the closest I got to like intention. Like, I can play this on the go. Never played it. This is a chance where I will actually play it, and that's why it's exciting for me.
I'm really interested about that too, because in the sort of post-show discussion about it, they talked to someone from Aspire, who's the studio developing this, and they sort of gave that line, because this is a remake, and they gave the line that sort of, we want to stay true to the story that everyone likes, but this is also a chance to, you know, rebuild from the ground up. So that's it, like that sounds clear, but that's still like such muddy water, because you're dealing with the like, okay, are they gonna just try and like how close to the original mechanics are they staying? That's some outdated kind of D&D turn-based action stuff going on there.
Yeah,
that I enjoyed, but I don't know how well that would translate to a modern thing. So like, I am really curious beyond the visual like point to see how they actually like translate the gameplay here to a new game.
I would imagine they're going to be removing any semblance of like do your attacks, queue them up, they have them in the bar on the top. I think it's just going to be an action RPG at this point, right? I'm sure it seems like it's
a 7 remake approach, kind of. Not identical, obviously, but...
Yeah, and obviously not with that production budget and stuff, but the fact that there's a lot of former BioWare talent here at Aspire? Whatever it is, I'd imagine they would take kind of a more action-focused BioWare approach to this thing. People in the chat when we were watching live were wondering, like, I wonder if they would make it canon now. If they would like rework the story to such an extent that it'll fit outside of the Star Wars Legends territory, which I guess is where KOTOR exists now. And with Disney being involved this much, could they shoehorn it in so that technically it's canon? I don't know how much new Disney lore has stepped on Old Republic territory, but Joe, I know you don't care about that.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry if my sort of disdain is showing through.
Just a little bit.
It's like, well, on some level though, it's like there was some of the best Star Wars stories that like fans have loved for years and years have never been officially canon. The Timothy Zahn book trilogy was never like, this is really what happened, everyone. Right. I don't think so. Anyway, the point being is that like canon or not, like that's sort of an arbitrary distinction that doesn't really interfere with your ability to appreciate the story or enjoy how it connects to the wider universe, right?
Yeah. So I'm super looking forward to this. I remember it feels like a 1,000 years ago in an Old Republic maybe, but I remember finishing Knights of the Old Republic on the original Xbox and confidently thinking, this is my 3rd favorite game of all time. Like queuing it up right there. And I feel like over time, I've just kind of forgotten how much I love that game and how much of an impact it had on me. And look, Kyle, I'm not proud of it. I also bought it on my stupid iPhone and tried starting it up again. Did not enjoy the experience, but if they can recapture some of that magic, I will be over the moon. At the same time, it's like, I wonder how much kind of Mass Effect kind of upped almost everything I loved about KOTOR, obviously except for like the Star Wars license stuff, but just the idea of, big decisions and these huge swings and being evil and all that stuff. Like, it'll be interesting to go back to it, but it's cool to see a Star Wars game not from EA. Like, they passed that license. This is a new era, and they say it's remade for the PS5. A little unclear if it's coming to anything else or exactly what that means in the age of cagey wording.
It's a launch exclusive, launch console exclusive, but it's also on PC. So the implication there is that, like, if someone's cutting the check, like, who's to say where else it goes? But at least at launch for console, it'd be on PS5 only.
Thank you, Janet.
Which is interesting because it was Xbox exclusive when the original KOTOR launched back in like 2003.
Right.
It was only on Xbox.
Yeah, which is similar trajectory, Kyle, to your beloved Alan Wake. That game's getting remastered, and they had a big bullet point in the thing like, Alan Wake on PlayStation for the first time. Soak it in, everybody. Is that doing it for you?
I think I'll replay Alan Wake remaster. Yeah, because that game's great. I love that game. That was like one of my first getting into games journalism and stuff. Like, I got an early copy of Alan Wake to write about it, and that was like the first game I ever got early. So it's like, it's special to me for that reason. But I also just genuinely love it. Like, it's just a great, Remedy is awesome, and that's one of their better games. Like, I think it might be my favorite Remedy game.
Really?
Even ahead of Control.
Interesting. That's a bold move, man.
I think so.
I'm interested to play it as someone that loved Control, because I didn't play Alan Wake, and I believe it either is still or was on Game Pass for a time, and I just didn't get around to it when it was on Game Pass. And this is nice because from like what I hear from people that go back and play Alan Wake is that, it's still pretty good, like it ages pretty well, but some elements are maybe a little cumbersome. And then without spoilers, because I don't even know how it ends, but some people have beefs with like how it pans out, but that's fine. Like, I'm just interested in stuff that's like in that world. And I think it's funny the mention of like on PS5 for the first time, because Control like has Alan Wake tie-ins and Alan Wake DLC, and it is kind of odd like having all that stuff, and then it's like, but like we don't have Alan Wake. So it's nice to kind of maybe tie that all together. So yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah. And
they should market it like sort of technically a prequel to Control, kind of.
Yeah, Kyle, you need to...
We're not technically wrong when we say those words out loud.
You say the first game in the Control universe or something.
There you go. See?
Yeah, call it Control Zero. Yeah, they got a lot of options here I think they could go for. But it's published by... Oh, yeah, Joe.
Well, it's like, I'm not here to rain on anyone's parade, because like I played and enjoyed Alan Wake back when it came out. But it also feels to me like... I think that is probably one of the most overrated games that gets talked about a lot. You know, like I thought
Sure.
I thought it was good. Like, it was good. It was a fine game. But at this point, this many years on, I'm a little bit flabbergasted that it's so often brought up as such a great game, you know?
Yeah, I still just can't get over the fact that there's like a Twilight Zone parody show in Alan Wake. But then I remember, Kyle, when we went to Finland and we're talking to Sam Link, we asked him in one of the interviews, like, what his favorite Twilight Zone episode was. And he's like, oh, I don't like Twilight Zone. I haven't really seen that many. I was like, what? You're like, people associate with Twilight Zone. He's like, I don't know.
Gamer over here. Now
I know. He's a fake Twilight Zone fan. I think he said something about like, the glasses one. It's like, deep cut, dude. You really got it. But hey, that's fine. Each but yeah,
you should have pretended to try to remember, like, what's that one? And then when you start describing it, yeah, that's
right.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, that should have been the classic Sam Lake move. But yeah, the game is published by Epic as part of that whole deal. And Epic had another announcement during this show, which it was quietly and quickly one of the most surprising things, which was...
Dude.
What is it, Kyle? Can you explain what I saw?
Well, so Radiohead recently announced that they're releasing a bunch of extra tracks that they never published from Kid A and Amnesiac. Kid A, like, seriously, one of my favorite albums of all time. Like, a huge
really
impact on like what I think of music and how music affects me. Like, listening to that on a Discman with headphones in high school, like, changed the way I think of music. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. So when that music started, I was like, what is this? This is exciting. This is really cool. So like, and they don't talk about it a lot, but Radiohead has like really good taste in video games. Like, they were talking about Ico like years and years and years ago before it was like became this like sort of indie hit. You know what I mean?
Janet, are you saying that's not cool or hip enough to talk about Eco or Ico?
I just feel like, is that a sign that you have good taste in games? I think it's very debatable.
What are you talking about?
I adore Ico, and I remember reading an interview with the guitarist like years ago. Like, Ico had not even broken out to be. It was still like very much an underground thing, you know, that like only hipsters knew about. And to have that, they had a list of their favorite games, and to see Ico on there, I was like, oh, these guys actually like are into sort of artsy video games. Like, it's more than just like
a deep,
you know, we play
sign.
Madden on the tour bus kind of thing, you know.
I hear you.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, I mean,
but for as far as what it is exactly, I don't really know. I think it's probably this space. We
listened to that whole preamble for nothing.
Yeah.
Well, that's
but
kind
I think
of.
it's going to be an
talks for
opportunity
the
to listen to
experience.
those. It's going to be an opportunity to listen to those unreleased tracks, right? There'll be the album release, which is like B-sides and combinations and stuff like that, and then this will be sort of an interactive version of that album, I think. You know.
Yeah.
So is it a game in some ways? Like, can I like
I don't
pick
think
up?
So.
Like, am I just? What's happening? Am I watching it? Like, I was really confused on what it was.
I think they
More
call
like
it
Wonder Book, I think.
Yeah, they called it an exhibition. I bet it's just going to be like, you know, maybe Radiohead was too cool for Fortnite, so like, okay, well, let's just make like one of the little Fortnite installations.
Too, like,
yeah, let's just make it
Tom
like a
York
separate
dropping
thing.
in, you know. Just...
I'm gonna play as the paranoid android. Ooh.
I would buy some Tom York DLC. I'd play as Tom York.
Oh boy.
Right? Like, I
Just
would.
that dour-looking, skinny man running around with a gun.
Can you imagine like the emote being like? Remember that dance he did to like a Lotus Flower? Was it Lotus Flower? Was that the name of the song? The black and white kind of choreography. Yeah. Like, if that was the emote,
oh my god,
I would drop some coin on that for sure.
Janet, what do you want to talk about? What's your biggest surprise for the entire PlayStation Showcase?
I think my biggest surprise is Spider-Man 2 having any nod, because that was my swing for the fences prediction that I made on like Kind of Funny's P.S. I Love You, and everyone's like, "You're crazy! They're not going to do it. They just made something," and I'm like, "Well, I don't know what's going on at the studio because I'm not there, but they're pumping out content like crazy. I don't know. They just do it. They just do it."
I think it's some sort of like secret black hole where it looks like Insomniac only has like 300 to 400 employees, but based on this output, I think they might have 3,000 to 4,000 because they so far they're their most prolific developer of the generation. It doesn't look like it's stopping. So yeah, I mean, this was a huge surprise.
Well, they do have 2 studios and 2 hosts, right?
But that's the part that's really confusing is like thinking about, okay, so are they not going to make Ratchet and Clank now? And maybe the Ratchet and Clank team can work on Spider-Man 2, or are they going to be a 3-game studio at this point where the Miles Morales team is going to be now working on the other title that we haven't mentioned yet, and then the old Spider-Man team? Because I'd imagine that Spider-Man 2 is what Brian Intihar went to go work on after finishing the first one. So I'd imagine he took the leads from that team for this.
Have they confirmed that there's a follow-up to Rift Apart in the works already?
No, but at the same time, they said that it's the best-selling Ratchet and Clank, so it'd be tough to put down, right?
Man, I don't know. They shelf Ratchet and Clank regularly. I think that's a series that is well served to sort of like come back and like in blips, right? Not a continuous line.
Yeah, I guess so. They took a pretty big gap. But regardless, Spider-Man 2, I think it's a great name. I'm always a fan. Just call it 2. Just call it Destiny 2. It's such a relief. Call it XCOM 2. It's just no cutesy title needed. Looks like co-op. They got Miles and
there are 2
Peter.
of them, so
that makes sense. It does take 2.
It takes 2. Yes, man. Yes.
Then they have a mystery voice calling from the shadows. It sounds like maybe Kraven the Hunter, about like, I've been looking for one of you little rascals or something. And then transitions.
That's an excellent Russian accent you have there, Ben.
Thank you. It's more of an accent enveloping the entire hemisphere. It's a lot. But then
I liked your Doreen better.
But then they also reveal Venom, which they teased at the end. Sorry, spoilers, I guess, but this trailer also spoiled it, of Spider-Man 2018. And now it looks like this thing is actually happening. Kyle, regale me. What stood out to you for Spider-Man 2 in the trailer there?
It's pretty dark.
Pretty dark.
In tone. And to the point where it was like zooming in on the alleyway, and I really expected a gag to happen with like a tiny little character or something. I was like, oh, no, it's big scary Venom. That's okay. So it seems like it's going much darker. You know what I mean? Spider-Man had its dark moments, but I mean, overall, it's a pretty light game, you know?
Yeah, that is true. I guess if you're telling the Venom story, I guess naturally it has to get a little bit darker. Like, there's a lot of things that I guess maybe we won't reveal about, like, you know, who is underneath the Venom suit, the Venom symbiote and everything like that. Like, it's going to be really interesting.
It's just more Venom.
Yeah, it's
just all the way down.
Double
all
Venom.
the way down. I think
Venom's all the way down.
Yeah.
It's just all the molecules falling apart.
I mean, I think that they proved with that first game that they're totally happy to mess with Spider-Man lore in unexpected ways.
Right.
Like characters and things that are usually like locked in place for the Spider-Man stories. Like they did whatever they wanted with, to the point where I'm like, I wonder if Venom is taking over Kraven, and this is like a Kraven Venom combo, just to like do something weird and unique. You know,
well, it seemed like they were already,
which is something they kind of teased at the end of the first game, but not quite in that direction. It's weird to talk around spoilers.
Yeah, so maybe the symbiote will be like jumping between different villains. That would be a really weird idea.
Cool.
But I guess
Venom designs of all the big bads and stuff like that.
Yeah. They also revealed that it's coming 2023. So good God, hold on, everybody. It's going to be a long ride before we learn anything more about Spider-Man 2. But
I will say too, like, because also from that same blog post, it is described as a single player adventure. So I don't know if there would be like a co-op element, or if there's just, you play as multiple people. I mean, we definitely have seen that like in the first Spider-Man game, like that could be sort of one of their core like design components, to just toss you around multiple characters potentially. But yes, it is described as the most epic single player adventure, coming exclusively to the PlayStation 5.
That's really wild that they would have Miles so front and center in that, and they're like doing combo moves and stuff together. But yeah, maybe it's just going to be like a big assist, like component or something. That's really wild.
I mean, God of War is kind of in that structure too, in a way. I get that. Atreus or Atreus. I never remember how to pronounce the name. Like it's a different. It's more of like a partnered, like almost like a button. Like it's like a really elaborate button, but maybe it could have that kind of structure.
There you go, Miles. You're a really elaborate button. Congratulations, little buddy. The greatest, most sacrilegious part of this entire stream was Sid Schumann, dear friend of the show, in that post-stream recap thing, calling the studio Insom. Repeatedly calling it Insom. What is this? Just call it Insom.
I'm trying to make Insom happen.
Hanson.
It was disgusting. I never want to hear it again. Ugh. It's like when you hear Sony employees, they call it TLU for Last of Us. It's like, don't call it TLU. No one else outside of Sony is going to do that. Stop it. Anyways, hey, there's other stuff they announced. I guess we should keep this whole train rolling, because they also announced what for me was the biggest surprise of the whole show. I don't know how the hell this did not leak, but they opened it up with, hey, Marvel, Insomniac. Everybody thought this was going to be the Spider-Man 2 trailer. And then it's a bar, and it's confusing about, what is this person sitting at a bar with bloody knuckles? Is this going to be the villain for Spider-Man 2? And then, Joe Juba, walk us through, man, frame by frame, what happened.
And then the black Venom suit overcame his body,
Yeah.
and he's
It was really cool.
yeah, no, those claws came out, man. That was Wolverine. So, which, I mean, you knew that, right? As soon as, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just making myself to be real smart, but as soon as they showed some big hairy arm leaning on a bar, I'm like, oh, they're making a Wolverine game.
I did not realize that.
Well, I thought that
That
was
was
like,
a
oh,
hairy
Wolverine's
man.
going to be in Spider-Man.
I thought that too. I was like, oh, like where's Spider-Man? And then Spider-Man didn't show up, and I was like, never mind. And then he did show up later, and that's why I was surprised.
Well, I mean,
In a different game.
Yes.
yeah, there's nothing they really confirm more about this. Although, Janet, you're on top of it. Did they post something on the blog with any more details on Wolverine? You're welcome to cruise it while we're trying to recap everything here on the fly.
Yeah,
Mostly, I
don't
want to
think
just,
so.
I just
think
want to
it's just
know
a
the
lot of.
ESRB rating.
I mean, this is the question. Was Resistance mature?
Yeah.
It was. Okay, so they have made mature games in the past. But yeah, if you're slicing and dicing as Wolverine, you would think that they'd have to go mature. It's kind of a tough thing. But I don't know if Marvel would be interested in making a mature game at this point either.
No.
But, I mean, I know people were bummed out that technically the Avengers from Crystal Dynamics and the Spider-Man from Insomniac were not in the same universe, but there's no way that they don't have Spider-Man at some point in the Wolverine game, right? As like just a tease, or like Wolverine's going to be watching TV and Spider-Man's on it. Like they're going to cross that Insomniac Marvel universe. No, Joe? You say no?
I feel like isn't that still in some weird legal limbo territory
No.
between?
No, I think it's all Disney. I mean,
Well,
look at
no,
like...
I think Joe's right because Spider-Man is Sony owned, but Wolverine is like fair game for anybody, which maybe complicates things, you know?
I guess that's true.
I mean, I all I remember is there was some like special contractual exemption or something to even get Spider-Man in the Avengers stuff, and I know the X-Men stuff is even weirder than that.
Well,
you know?
so the X-Men stuff was
So-
weirder. That's what I thought you were talking about. But you look at like, Firaxis's game and Wolverine's hanging out with Iron Man and everybody's buddy. But yeah, I forgot about the weirdness about Spider-Man. But I would hope that they realize the potential here. And then the next Spider-Man game can be co-op, not with Miles Morales, which everybody wants, but you can have Wolverine and Spider-Man team up.
Now we're just dipping back into Marvel's Avengers, and I don't want to dip
you're
back
right.
in.
You're right.
It's
So
full
Honestly,
weird.
circle.
dude, I do not want co-op any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't. Like, actively. Like, I want Spider-Man to be a single-player game, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately,
I'm
I do
actually
too.
really curious about what this Wolverine game even is going to be, because like in my mind, the kind of game that a Wolverine game is such a PS2 era game.
Yes.
Right? Maybe
yes.
360 PS3.
Yes.
Right? Just the like third person action, square, triangle, square, triangle. Like mow through a bunch of dudes, collect some orbs, and make your square, triangle stronger. And that's like in my mind, that is the boundary of where that game can go. So I am really excited actually to see, even as not a particular fan of like comic book stuff, I'm excited to see what they do. Or do they take it in more of like a God of War kind of direction, a little more like visceral in that sense? I don't know.
I guess so. But yeah, it's weird when you would describe Wolverine as a brawler, but there's also no more outdated genre than just a brawler, especially like 3D brawler. But I guess, yeah, if you're looking for God of War for inspiration, yeah, there's a lot of questions. I mean, just like the mobility, this is going to be such a huge step back for Insomniac and their games recently. I
I
don't
really
know.
hope that they're
trying to-
looking
I
to
saw
that
someone-
to that Logan movie as inspiration for this one.
Yeah. What do you got, Kyle?
I saw somebody calling out the there's like a cash register in the background that has like 1974 on it, which some people are pointing to like maybe a reference to some element of Wolverine or Hulk or something. And I wonder if it takes place in like 1974.
That would
like,
be
if
a
it's, like,
really
in
cool
the
way to
past, you know?
differentiate it. Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that this didn't leak. You got Jeff Grubb out there screaming about every game under the sun that's coming out in 2025, and this one I did not hear a murmur about. It's really amazing. Gran Turismo 7 was also shown. Looks great. You can take a photo of your pretty car. Everybody is standing on the edge of their seats. No, I'm sure it'll be a very, very good game, just not the most exciting to talk about naturally. I hope you understand. Joe, what do you think about Forspoken, that Square Enix game?
Yeah, you know what? They're actually Forspoken and that Eve game
Project Eve.
were weird. I mean, I'm not gonna. I am uncertain about what the ultimate quality of those games is going to be, especially the Eve one. I wonder. But what I saw there had me really excited. The Project Eve one, because it looks like a little bit of a mashup between like Bayonetta and Nier.
Totally.
Which, like in terms of the world, the aesthetic, the combat, like the tone and all of that. So, I really love the Bayonetta games, and I find the Nier games very interesting.
Interesting.
So, I'm
politely dodged.
I want to play that, but sorry, I didn't mean to hijack the Forspoken conversation.
No.
Well, before we move on to Forspoken, Joe, is it a Parasite Eve game, or is that just me?
I'm not sure.
Because
there was that line.
Parasites.
Yeah, they were calling her name is Eve, and they were talking about someone parasiting or something. But it's also like they didn't mention mitochondria at all, which is like a huge Parasite Eve, like whatever signal word, right?
And that game, the original Parasite Eves, I mean, those are ostensibly turn-based RPGs, right? I haven't played a lot of them.
They're different, but they're kind of actiony, kind of, I don't know, like Fallout-y. Anyway.
Okay.
But so I wasn't clear if it's actually part of the Parasite Eve franchise or not. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Or just coincidence. I don't know.
Stylish action, strange world. I don't especially care about a connection, even if it's there, even to Parasite Eve. But
no, it looked interesting. We watched the stream with, or I watched it with Sarah Pazorski, streaming our reactions, and Sarah was fascinated by the suit and like the lighting coming off the suit, like the ray tracing off of her butt. They were really keen on showing you again and again and again for that Project Eve character. It was a lot.
That is just like, and that is actually one of my reservations. Like, that's why I'm maybe not so excited. It's like, I know Bayonetta does that, but they sort of do it with like a tongue-in-cheek, campy approach. And this was just like, look at this sexy butt.
Yeah, please buy Project Eve, everybody. But yeah, it was shown at the beginning there. A lot of questions about that still, but this freaking Forspoken game, Joe.
Okay. So I'm someone who, when it comes to playing RPGs, if it gives me a choice to be of a class, I'm almost always the mage. I tend to really enjoy that sort of like distance, spell-focused combat. It usually involves some like elemental combinations and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of what has me so excited about Forspoken there, is it seems like they are really looking at what makes spell casting interesting and fun. Like what part of that wizard fantasy do players want to experience? And it's not, the spoiler is it's not just stay far away and repeatedly shoot fireballs, right? It's like mix a bunch of mobility spells. It's not just rogues who can move really fast. And, so it's like mixing up what looks like a pretty extensive sort of spell book and a pretty broad range of like powers, from like tiny little things to giant icicle bombs and things like that. I think that's like the repertoire of like the combat looks really broad.
Yeah, and just the amount of effects that are flying around with each magic move, combined with Kyle's favorite thing where she's running super fast, like the mobility seems cool in the world itself.
I mean, we can talk more about God of War soon, but just seeing more of this was my favorite thing. It just looks so much fun to like leap and fly and swing and it just, the one thing I was like, her dialogue's a little weird. I think I can grow to like it, like once you get a better sense of who she is as a character. But in little snippets, it just seems like she's like being profane for the sake of being profane. But I mean, it doesn't matter, man. Like just those shots of her like sprinting full speed and like leaping off a cliffside to like swing off a branch jutting out of the side of the mountain, that looks incredible. That was my favorite thing that they showed. Looks so good.
Yeah, watching it live, the chat was definitely bouncing back and forth between, oh my God, this looks amazing, and I wish you would not talk quite as much. Which, normally you hear that from a certain corner of the internet, but this is a time where it's like, yeah, I can see that. Like when they open the trailer with her being like, I'm a pretty big deal. What is this tone that they're going for? And she's got wacky bracelets talking to her. What was that exactly?
Yeah, this trailer, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time that they've sort of framed the narrative in that sense, though. I think back when it was Project Athia and And then like the last trailer that we got for it too, the Forspoken reveal of it or whatever. I think this is the first time I've seen anyway that sort of like weird modern day angle to it.
Well, yeah, well, like
sort of a stranger in
Move
a
over
strange
Assassin's
land.
Creed.
that's right. We don't
Yeah.
need any more Assassin's Creed. No, but like, yeah, I think the last trailer had her be like, "Well, it's a freaking dragon! Oh my god!" Like that type of thing. So it's a little more lightly implied. But I like the idea of the trailer starting out and she's just wearing like flannel walking in this fantasy world. Like it's a cool look for a character in this bizarre place, even if probably after the first hour you're going to be fully decked out in magic stuff and sprinting across the rooftops and
And
shooting
I mean,
magic
Fish Out of
spells.
Water is like super fun, and it's also just a great way to like show you how a world works. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
you get to be right over her shoulder and be like, "What is this now?" And like it gets explained to her, and it doesn't feel stupid. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like people like, "You didn't know about this? You should know about this. Let me tell you about it anyway." It's like,
Right.
so I'm into it. I'm excited about this sort of the setup that they have in place there.
Yeah, and it's what is it? PS5 and PC for Spoken, but they say spring 2022. This is
think-
tough to keep up with exactly what they've confirmed for PC versus not. But yeah, okay, looks like yeah, PC and PS5. All right.
That was definitely the biggest dark horse I think for me out of this. Like my Forspoken is the game that had my enthusiasm level increase the most from where it was to after where it is after I saw the trailer.
Yeah, yeah. Ghostwire Tokyo also looked fantastic. It looks like Surreal Vasticus' dream game, so shout out to him. I'm sure he's very excited about that. Hang on. Joe
R.I.P.
could not be wincing more at Ghostwire Tokyo? Really? Not impressed?
Not especially, no. But
Okay.
I mean, it's for someone. That's fine. Not everything needs
It's
to be for me.
People who like a mashup of weird horror in Tokyo and weird first-person hand quick moves as you're running around. That seems up your alley-ish.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so like one of the things that was weird about this showcase to me in general is that I think the divide between previous gen and new gen stuff is starting to become more and more apparent.
Ah, okay.
So I think that when that there are some games that it's just been clear they've been in development for a long time. And
Right.
as our sort of standard is like slowly month after month, we're sort of getting acclimated to a higher standard. Some of those older things just look a little jankier and seem just a little less impressive. I
Okay.
guess.
All right.
So Ghostwire Tokyo fell into that camp for me. There was like the Tiny Tina game was one of those that I was like,
Right.
Guardians of the Galaxy even was just sort of like, huh, okay.
I feel like that it's not even a technological thing. Like that Guardians game just doesn't look good to me. It looks like it has the same problems that Marvel's Avengers has. So I'm like, all right, like there's a lot of Marvel stuff going on right now, and not
Yeah.
all of it is good, and that's true even outside of games.
Oh,
So-
interesting. I think the Guardians game feels like a game that at the end of the year, is it coming out this year? I believe it is. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of defenders about that
I'm
game.
cutting that train cart. I'm
Okay.
telling you right now, that cart's flying
Yeah,
away.
but we're not even to it
You're
yet.
not even hitching it on.
Yeah, you're cutting
Oh,
the
no,
engine before you
like-
get to it, Janet.
Like I'm like, how do I not reserve my time for it?
Okay.
Unless
All right.
all y'all like, nah, it's fire. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe it's gonna be really good. But like, we had that one deep dive at that one
Right.
showcase. Was it
Is E3, I
Probably-
think, right?
something
And
like
then
that?
and then GI had a cover story on it also.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like super dry. I was like, what's the opposite of hype here? Like, it's just like, I'm like, oh, I don't even want to watch what I'm seeing, let alone do I want to play
don't
it for
wanna
like
watch
30
what I'm
hours
seeing.
myself.
All right, hey, each their own.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, the other.
Oh, and also if I ever become just like in charge of all forms of entertainment,
yes, sir.
I want to
Everyone does.
permanently 86 that joke about the odds of survival are 0.03%. Some sort of snarky response, but we're gonna face those odds. And it's just like, shut up.
Joe,
I'm so done with that joke.
look,
just kill it.
I'm 100% with you. However, it made
I
me.
want to know the math.
It-
How do you come up with that percentage?
I'm just saying.
What are the factors?
Look, it's nonsense, but check the tape, Joe. I was 100% with you, and then when I watched that trailer, it made me laugh out loud when he said like, "Oh, that's no good, is it?" And then like the other character or the entity that said it was like, "No, it's not," or whatever. Like having the character, the entity, like give the
did?
rebuttal. Joe,
What
look
about
at
when
I
Doctor
do laugh.
Strange? What if it's not a joke? What about like Doctor Strange during what was it like?
Infinity
was it
War?
Endgame at that point? Infinity War.
Yeah. That's allowed?
It's
So you have to be serious when you're dropping math. Like, don't bring that math out if you ain't about it. You know.
Okay.
But see, he showed his work, right? He's like, hey, I've been to a million different universes, and there's one where this works. He's not. He visited those different alternate realities in his magic brain or whatever. But like, this is just some computer who's apparently taking a bunch of like, what?
Oh yeah, because that's more ridiculous than Doctor Strange's magic mind.
Yes, it is. You get it. Okay, we're in agreement.
Hey, Joe, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but I did the math, and it's like a 5% chance that joke's going away in our modern media.
I think
Cool,
that's
and
right.
it doesn't sound great. No, okay, you're right. It is rough. It is rough. That's a lot of some writing. I ain't going. It's a lot.
Okay, hang on. I've just received a message that says to kick Kyle. Interesting. All right. Real quick, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, the new Gearbox game's coming out March 25th, 2022. Based on the tease at E3, it's like, oh, okay, like the fantasy Borderlands. This is interesting. And then this trailer was just nothing but guns that look like Borderlands guns. Like, it's a hell of a lot more Borderlands than I thought, but it seems wacky. Like, environments are cool, like giant, soda cans and stuff for the environment. Like, that framing kind of lets them do anything. But was anybody red hot on Tiny Tina's Wonderlands? A game that will outsell every other game here?
It was nice to hear Andy Samberg. Always
Yeah.
love Andy Samberg. One line from him.
It seemed like Will Arnett, was he like the bad guy in the start of the trailer as well? I remember they said he was going to be in it, but I don't know if they revealed exactly who he was going to be yet. But yeah, it seems all right. Oh, the song, that baby metal song that Sarah Pazorski on the stream was very excited about. So that's something.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Great song.
You should go look up that music video if you've never seen it. It's cool.
Oh, really? All right. Star of the show. Let's jump into it, y'all. Janet, I'm giving you the honor of saying the official name of the new God of War game. Hit us, dude.
God of War, Ragnarok.
Yeah, they did the thing we all thought they were going to do for a long time. Crazy. They did it. Finally, a new
People
trailer.
don't have to reword all their pages now. They saved SEO across the eons of the galaxy. Shout out to that team for not ruining that back end.
They
of those
truly did it.
CMSs.
Yeah. And we can go back into all of our previous discussions about this game and remove the quotes around Ragnarok every time I titled it on the podcast or anything. Because, yeah, it's just called God of War Ragnarok. I'm so glad they just went with that because they can't do God of War 2. It's a mess. Joe, as a big fan of that last game, and as somebody that reviewed it for Game Informer, I'm curious what you thought about the big trailer here.
I think if in terms of the whole showcase,
I
think this is the game that I am ultimately going to enjoy the most.
Yeah.
I do not think that it was the most exciting thing or like the game that showed the best here today.
Totally with you.
I mean, and it actually kind of ties into what I was just talking about with like that generational straddle, right? Because this is a game that's on both PS4 and PS5. So I think you see that on a technical level, that's like, oh yeah, that looks like Kratos. That looks like Atreus. It doesn't look particularly like more amazing, right?
I think it super does.
Well, I want to stop and say, like, I played God of War is the game that inspired me to buy a PS4 Pro last generation because it looked so good.
Yeah.
So like, I can't really fault them for not making a huge generational leap on a game that was already felt like a generational leap last generation, right? So I that's just, I guess I just want to be clear. I'm not throwing the game under the bus here or anything. Like, I acknowledge that it looks fantastic, and that a lot of what they're doing is undoubtedly impressive. I just think in terms of like a public facing showing, it had a lot of like, oh, there's Atreus, there's Mimir,
I kind of hear you.
The axe, there's the blades,
Yeah, I think the reveal of Kratos, I think, looked fantastic. There's shots of like when that big creature like attacks and kind of like rolls with Kratos, like that really looks fantastic. But conceptually, I'm with you, where seeing it is a little bit like, okay, I was not expecting this sequel to just be you're now buddies with Atreus going on a similar style adventure. I'm still unbelievably excited about it, but I was kind of worried that, like, is this going to kind of feel like the Miles Morales to God of War? And it's certainly more than that. It seems like a full sequel, but I think it's more in that vein than maybe our highest aspirations.
Well, and here's the impossible bar that Santa Monica Studio has to clear with this, because for the last game, part of what was so like enthralling about it was the mystery.
Right.
It's like all this time has passed. Kratos has a son now. He has a beard. He uses an axe. Instead, he doesn't have his blades. He's in like Norse mythology now. There are all of these like foundational questions that you need to answer just about the state of the story, of the characters, of all of this stuff. But like that first game did a good job answering those questions. So now going into the second game, what they kind of spent that narrative capital they had, which is, I think, smart. You needed to do that. That's part of what made that first game so good. But where's their mystery now?
I think,
what's the question?
I think the question, and they did a really good job in the last game, is in the last game they withheld so many of the gods. I think that is one of the amazing things, is how narratively that game is pretty reserved. And so for them to lean into the big question for this game being, what is Odin going to be like? We had Thor, and that line from Thor in this trailer where he goes, "Are you a calm and reasonable person?" That's one of my favorite deliveries I've heard in a very, very long time in a video game. I am so excited for that tone for Thor. I never could have connected that voice to Thor. It's brilliant.
In the same way that they really subverted expectations with Baldur in the first game,
right?
And like his personality as a god, right? Like I think I have total faith in that team to make that like pantheon interesting,
right? And
but when you're dealing with a series that has such a history of escalation, right, of raising stakes, I think it comes off as a little strange for the big first reveal of like what this game is and what it's like to have it feel so status quo rather than kind of set that point of escalation.
I don't know. Like, what do you want? You just want to see a completely new realm in the reveal trailer? Is that going to do it for you? Instead of just kind of a rework, like, oh, now it's Fimbulwinter, and so everything's snowy, and instead of a boat for a lot of these areas, you're going to be driving around on a dog sled, which is cool, but not enough of a change for you, just environment-wise?
I don't know what I want.
Okay.
Surprise me with stuff.
Well, sure.
I guess that's part of, the dog sled's cool. I don't know. I guess that's what it boils down to.
Boat good. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, you check it off. I think what's interesting is in the blog post, they revealed that all 9 realms are in the game. So I think it is going to be a little bit of that remixed environments from the first one. Like the environments you're in before are probably going to be all winterized now, and you can actually go into the realms that were locked out before. But still, just looking at the trailer again now, it's like, okay, looks like we have the elves again. So I'm wondering how much you're going to be revisiting those areas versus all new realms.
So I actually never ended up finishing the first one, old one, last one.
Yeah.
So I have to go back and finish that. I did play a good chunk of it, but then I just, I fell off and I had other stuff to do.
Fine, it's fine, it happens.
It just, life.
It's one of those games, Janet. Like
came on.
it ends well.
So
you know what I mean? Like it's a game that's worth finishing, as opposed to one. It's like if it didn't click with you, it's like, oh yeah, you got what you needed out of it. Like you should finish.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
Like the opening of that game is still one of the most like technologically wowing moments in my like gaming life. Like I think about that all, and it's crazy that, again, on the PS4, like I remember being like, they talk about, they recently did a Ratchet and Clank like developer deep dive on the PlayStation blog where they're like, oh, like look at how like integrated it is, and it is, but like it's still cartoony, and that's a little inherently less wowing to me than something that's going for a little bit more realism, even though Kratos isn't real. Spoilers. But
real
like
to me.
When he's real to me, it happened. When they went from like, I'm looking at it to gameplay, and I was like, this is what the game looks like. And then, I don't think there's been a million great words said about it, so I don't really need to harp on that game being good. But I think one issue that it runs into here with how it reveals is that there was kind of a really big leap from we knew literally nothing. We had like a logo. We didn't even have a name.
Yeah.
So now we got like kind of a meteor chunk of gameplay, but without context. Like I think looking back at like Breath of the Wild 2, which is also remixed, but it kind of led in and fed in and leaned into what its mystery was and has been sprinkling that out.
Right.
I think what maybe would have been better was something a little bit, at least just to satisfy more people. I'm sure there's plenty of people that were like, this looks great. And I'm sure it will be good, but like something that's a little bit more constructive narratively, creating questions already, and then a PlayStation state of play that sort of walks us through those portions may have like I guess, won a wider variety over if you are someone, you know, like Joe, where you're like, hey, this looks like more of the same, which isn't bad, but what is my reason for getting excited about this specifically versus,
I hear ya.
I just played this.
Yeah, I think it's the promise of the gods for me, and that idea of them saying this is the finale of the Norse saga, and so you know that they're not going to tease anything else. Like, it is going to be climactic. There's going to be confrontations with Odin, whatever sense that is. Like, they described Odin as an old man busy with his own things.
She was kind of small for a saga.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Yeah, I don't know exactly.
So I feel like you just had 2.
It works.
But I don't know, narratively, like, I get it. I don't think you should stretch it to 3 if you don't got the sauce in there, but like the saga, I'm like, what, the 2 games? Like,
yeah, we'll be ready for something new, I think. But I'm happy with 2 games set in one mythology. I think that works pretty well for just generationally here. But like the big,
I mean, it is like 8 games, to be clear.
Yeah. It is true. If you want to go back,
it's 4, 5, 6, it's 7. That'll be the 8th game in the series.
Yeah,
so.
But like for the big tension
well,
here,
if you include the mobile game, it'll be the 9th actually. So there,
Kyle,
I was right with my first number guess.
I've never been more confident about anything in my life that you were going to bring up the mobile game. I would have bet so much money on that.
I'm convinced I'm the only person who's played and beaten it. Yeah. So I'd like to bring it up.
Message received, buddy. But no, like the big tension, it seems like for this one is Atreus, who has leapfrogged past puberty. They wanted the same voice actor, and he is now a 46-year-old man by the sounds of him, but it's fun to have him in there. But his tension is he's pushing for more war to protect the ones they love, and then Kratos says, I don't want to go down that war path. And so
old for this.
That's there's an exact quote. No, and then they find Tyr, the Norse god of war, which is interesting that they had the big reveal for him, and it's very big because he's a very tall guy. Because some of the most fun fan theories from the last game was that Kratos was actually Tyr, and that it was going to be some fun cycle thing, which I was very into. So they just squashed all those fan theories with the first trailer, which is fine, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Joe, do you have thoughts just on that concept of introducing Tyr now as another god of war?
I mean, I guess what I'm interested in is sort of the they say it's the end of the finale of the Norse saga here, which,
right.
I mean, so involves Tyr, that god of war. But then I also wonder, like, how does the series carry over from here, right? Without getting too into spoilers, I think they have given us reason to believe that Kratos is not always going to be the titular god of war that this series follows.
Yeah.
So it leads me to wonder sort of what's like, just the speculation I'm more interested in, I guess, is like how the events play out at the end of this game to continue carrying forward even like, is Tyr the next god of war? Is Tyr going to the next Egyptian mythology or whatever? And, stomping down those guys?
Right? I mean,
right?
Well, maybe, but he's not really the god of war. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe they would change the name or something, but it's weird to...
The son of war.
Son of liking war. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. They revealed a big thing in the post-stream recap that I really appreciated, which is who was directing this one. Like, we knew for a long time that Cory Barlog is not directing this God of War entry, but he was there as the studio creative director in this video to pass the baton to Eric Williams, everybody. Congratulations, Eric Williams. He's the director for God of War Ragnarok.
A Midwesterner, right?
Yeah, kind of low energy Midwesterner, which is a tough transition coming from Cory, who's like just such a fun interview for everybody. And it's like, but Eric has been around as a designer on the full series, going back to the first one. But Joe, have you ever met Eric Williams before?
You know, he looked familiar to me.
Okay.
But like, so one of the things when you're going to do like cover stories and stuff for outlets like Game Informer, is that like, it's not like you just get to walk around the studio and talk to everyone you want, right? Like, you're given, you're sort of presented, maybe 3 or 4 people that you can talk to, like, right, to get official commentary and comments on and stuff. So I don't believe he was ever one of those people for me. Yeah. But I feel like I might have like gone out to lunch with him and some other folks once or something. He looked familiar.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's my big point of reference is visiting the studio for the Game Informer cover story. And it's like, yeah, he wasn't one of the spokespeople, which is interesting. But chat's bringing up watching us live that the fact that he's not a great public speaker gives me confidence that he's very good at his job. Which, yeah, that's probably a good way of looking at it. Yeah, not a showman. He's too focused on designing and being a good director to care about making jokes on camera like some sort of goober. But yeah, it's fun to see that changing hands and high hopes for God of War Ragnarok there.
Yeah. And I want to clarify too. I feel like I came off negative on this, and
that's your style.
I feel like it maybe looked a little like more of the same, but
There's dogs.
I don't think the game is going to be that, right? I think that they are like building on it in fun ways, and if nothing else, this occurred to me also is that if they are sort of taking the last game as a starting point, that hopefully they won't do the whole Samus loses all of her powers at the beginning of the game thing, right?
Yes.
So if you take someone as powerful as Kratos was at the end of the last game and use that as a starting point for the next game, then I think that's a good place to find that escalation, right? If you have to build from that already like place of power, that could be really fun.
For sure. Give them new weapons and everything. But yeah, they say that, the game does have new runes and abilities. This is in the blog post. Nebellion over there on Twitter tweeted out a summary I saw real quick before we went live, saying that Thor and Freya are the two main antagonists. I guess that's something huge. It's just seeing like Freya attack them and turn into the Raven for a bit. It looked fantastic. And that it takes place years after the first game. And that a key plot point is Atreus' true heritage. And they did tease a new character named Angerboda, something like that, who's the last remaining giants. The last remaining giant. She was at the end there. So it should be a fun connection with Atreus and figuring out that whole saga, but very much looking forward to it. And I think still 2022. I don't think they got more specific about when that thing's coming out, but it could be Sony's big 2022 game for the fall at least. Hey, Kyle, what would you like to talk about the most right now? Like moving on from PlayStation, do you want to talk about your adventures in virtual reality or anything else?
F.I.S.T is the one I'm actually genuinely excited about.
Oh, great.
I'm excited to talk about everything. But I played a bunch of F.I.S.T last night, and I like really like it a lot, like right out of the gate.
Oh, awesome!
Like it's Jason A. Striker from Giant Bomb mentioned a Shadow Complex in like talking about it, and that was like all I needed, kind of, because I love Shadow Complex for the 360. Which is like it's like a Metroid game from the people who now work on Fortnite,
right,
strangely. Right. But and it does feel like that game. And then the other thing, a community member, BeatenDownBrian, actually sent me a DM, and he was like, "Hey, you should play this because it has Mega Man X controls." And it does. Like
really?
You can slide and you can jump on walls, Mega Man X style. And it's awesome. I'm really into it. Like I really like it a lot for those reasons. It seems like a really it's so far, like I don't want to make any long-term assumptions, but it feels like a good Metroid style game where it's like it doesn't give you too many paths, you're not backtracking too much, the upgrades you're getting are significant and frequent, and then you can dash and jump on walls like you do in Mega Man X. I'm digging it. I want to play more of it.
Yeah, it really came out of nowhere. I feel like we saw it at a couple showcases before, like State of Plays. It was like, oh, the weird rabbit mech Metroid game. What is this thing? And for it to come out and be this solid is really impressive for this team. I don't know what their history is exactly.
I think on our podcast where we, decided who got to play what games for the rest of the year, I think this was one I won somewhat arbitrarily, where I was like, sure, that looks interesting. I'll check that out. I don't even know what it is. And then I like went and bought it. And I really like it so far.
Oh, nice. Grant, friend of the show, star of Hitman 3, he has been counting down the days until F.I.S.T release. And I was trying to brace him for like, look, Grant, it's a rabbit Metroidvania. This smells of a 725. I'm just saying, just put your expectations in check. And then I was way off. It seems like people are really enjoying this overall, but it's not on PC, which is wild to me. This is just PS4 and PS5 for F.I.S.T Forged in Shadow Torch. Like Kyle, I know you hate being put on the spot, but Joe, this is what we do on this podcast. I mean, if it stays where it's at now, is this cracking top 6? I mean, is it that good, or is it just like a surprisingly solid little Metroidvania here?
Ooh, I think it's a surprisingly solid Metroidvania, but when I really love those personally, so I could see it making my top 10 list. Yeah.
Okay. Fist Forged in Shadow Torch. Yeah, I look forward to checking it out. I think I'm gonna dive in soon. Joe, it seems like you're out.
Did you finish Axiom Verge 2 yet?
I didn't, Joe, and I don't think I will. It didn't really click for me. I gave it like a good 5-6 hours. I really was waiting for it to tip, but it never did for me, weirdly. Which surprises me. Like, I know you seem upset with me, and that's okay. You're allowed.
I'm not upset, Kyle. I'm just
really thought it was going to be the one for me.
Yeah, Joe, you ended up loving it?
Yeah, I really did. Yeah, but I mean, I see that there's a pretty broad range of scores out there for it, and I understand people's complaints about that game, but for me, it was exactly what I like. It really hit on the stuff that I think the first game did so well, in terms of taking the sort of Metroid specifically, and not even the Vania part of it, even though it has the level, but I think it just taps into that sense of weird isolation and identity, and the intersection of identity and technology in a bunch of weird ways. Just from a general story and vibe standpoint, I really, really dug it. And I like the gameplay too, but
it just seems like
I understand the complaints about the melee combat not being super engaging and stuff. I get it, but I liked it. So
just the hurdle is, don't go in expecting more of a Metroid homage. And if you go in expecting that and embracing the lore, then Axiom Verge 2 can still work for you.
Oh, it's very Metroid.
It's very Metroid. It's just not as much as the first one.
Other than not having a gun. I guess that would be the one
right.
non-Metroid element, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there were what I love about a good Metroid style game is when they give you powers that open up new areas, or new avenues, new places to explore in the game, that aren't just guns that you shoot at gates.
Yeah.
Right? It's like weapons that just essentially act as key cards that just arbitrarily open a door, and then on the other side of that door you're doing what you always did before. You can just get there now. And I think what Axiom Verge does so well is devise powers to get you to different parts of the map, but that have just overall utility, so they contribute to the sense of you just having this vast and impressive arsenal of unpredictable powers, rather than just 6 different guns that open 6 different doors.
Right. So that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you like it so much.
Yeah.
Let's see, real quick. Artful Escape came out this week. It's a game from Annapurna. The developer's name is Beethoven and Dinosaur. It's out on Game Pass, PC, and Apple Arcade. Strangely enough, but
Apple Arcade.
Yeah, isn't that bizarre?
That.
It kind of explains some of the simplicity of this thing. But Joe, have you seen anything about Artful Escape? Do you know what this game is?
No, I am not the person to talk to about this.
Okay, great. Has everybody else finished it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I finished it.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, it's not that long, just a couple hours long, really. Kyle, I'm going to try describing it. You tell me where I stumble. It's like Inside Llewyn Davis meets Night in the Woods meets Bit Trip Runner.
Not that last one.
Okay, all right.
To a disappointing
And also
degree,
not that
frankly.
other one.
Okay,
let's just one that I don't know.
I mean, okay. So the idea, Joe, with Artful Escape is
that it's Inside Llewyn Davis the game.
Yes, basically, yes. So you play the nephew of a famous folk musician. You're basically living Jacob Dylan's life, right? It's very much your uncle is Bob Dylan, but the problem is you really like ripping some sick interstellar solos on your guitar. And so
imagine if One Headlight was a really trippy guitar solo game. Is this joke working for anybody?
No, not at all. But the point is,
that's the song. That's One Headlight, right? That's their famous song. Bob Dylan's nephews. Okay.
Oh, okay. This is a deep cut. Someone got it, and they're like, "That's really good."
Okay, Kyle. We'll see you later.
Kyle.
It's a shame.
Kyle.
But so you're just running from side to side, Joe. It's effectively an adventure game on a 2D plane with no puzzles. And so a lot of the game is just you running to the right and holding X to do sick guitar solos as you kind of navigate this kind of Douglas Adamsy sci-fi world meeting crazy creatures. Did I do it, everybody? Is that the game?
That's pretty close. I would kind of maybe take some of that away a little. Say
Sure.
it's an adventure game with rhythm game elements.
Yeah.
Because that is the action climax is always you're playing a rhythm game. And there's light platforming involved.
Even that I think is too much. It's not a rhythm game. It's a Simon Says.
I said with rhythm game elements.
That's right. Simon Says elements.
You guys are really selling me on this here.
I liked it. I liked
spoilers
it.
for what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it's simplistic. There's a lot to like. I think the art's really cool. There's a lot of elements in here. I mean, Carl Weathers is in it, Joe. He's a big force in here. Jason Schwartzman's in it. Lena Headey from
Get
Game of
yourself a
Thrones.
stew going.
That's exactly right. You combine all these elements, but then, Janet, is it just too much running to the right for you? Is that the takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, I reviewed this for my outlet, Pentapixel, so you could read and watch my full thoughts on it. 1,000, 2,000 words or so. But for me, it is absolutely gorgeous. It cannot be understated how good looking this game is.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my big criticism is I think it has that really heavy strength, but the gameplay just doesn't live up to the visual beauty of it, which I stand by. But honestly, it's so pretty looking that if you see it, if you hear the critique and you're like, I'm still down to give it a try, go for it. I think you will have moments where you are in awe, but ultimately I just feel like the rhythm game element wasn't super compelling. The platforming is kind of dry. And I would say one of my, I guess, biggest disappointments for it is I feel like, I guess it doesn't really commit to a genre enough for me. Like Kyle mentioned, it's not really a rhythm game. You jump, but the platforming's very much secondary, which can be fine, but I felt like it didn't really commit to any one thing. The closest commitment is that main genre of adventure game, but I feel like after the first, I would say 30 minutes, maybe an hour max, it really walks away from dialogue choices and talking to different people and leans more into these, you're sort of walking through a really gorgeous music video. It's kind of a Yellow Submarine meets a slightly different, meets Flipping Death, or I forgot what else that developer made.
Broken Age. It feels like a really Broken.
I did think of Broken Age a couple times. Yeah.
I just looked up images of it. It does look good, and it does remind me a little of Broken Age.
Yeah, I can see the animations, the way characters kind of move around there, and the creativity of the creatures and stuff. But I think you're totally right on everything there, Janet. But especially it being a Game Pass game, it feels like the perfect game to dive in and try, because I was just shocked that okay, I'm enjoying my time with this. I'm not blown away by the gameplay because it's super simple. But the fact that I'm not putting it down, I think says a lot, right? I remember Tim Schafer talking about adventure games, the big payoff in an adventure game, the big reward is that you get to see new art. And it turns out when a game is basically just a streamline of new art for several hours and there are no puzzles to get in your way or real obstacles to get in your way other than some simple Simon Says, it is just strangely compelling to just keep moving through the story. Kyle, are you kind of in that same wheelhouse? I'm amazed you finished it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think my thing was and maybe it was a matter of expectation. I thought it was going to be a rhythm game, and I was ready for that. I threw on headphones, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to really play the rhythm part of this. And so it was that thing where I was like, well, maybe the next part will have more of a rhythm game style. And then at that point, I was 60% done with the game when I realized it's oh no, this is the whole thing. Okay,
that's the whole kit and caboodle. So. Yeah, the part that's amazing to me is it's kind of, you're kind of going on missions and going to different planets and stuff. And when you're on one of these missions, you can hold down X and it'll just wail this guitar solo, and it kind of interacts with the environment in a way. Otherwise, you can just keep on running, which would be the very boring way to play this game. But that's what blows my mind is it's basically a double layer soundtrack for everything, where they had some amazing guitarists just wailing amazing guitar solos throughout the entire soundtrack in every level. And you basically have the option by holding X of just listening to this sweet guitar solo. It's crazy to think about the recording process. Who did they get to do that? Who is just doing a 3-hour guitar solo effectively for this game's soundtrack? It's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's on Game Pass. You can check it out. The Artful Escape. Check it out there, or on PC or Apple Arcade if you're interested. I liked it. I liked my time with it. Kyle, you're too distracted by the Virtual Boy to spend more time with Artful Escape?
That's right. Well, I beat Artful Escape. What else do you want from
I want you to replay it and really appreciate it a little
Do it
bit
again.
more, though. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, what the hell is this, Kyle? Why are you playing a Virtual Boy in 2021?
Well, yeah, so I was looking at them on eBay. I was like, what are Virtual Boys going for these days? And my wife, we have our shared like eBay account. She just happened to notice that I was looking at them, and she's like, "Why are you looking at Virtual Boys?" And I was like, "I don't know. I've never really played one. It's like it's this big blind spot for me for like Nintendo games, and it's not like a type of game that can be emulated anywhere else. It's not like I could get an emulator going and play Virtual Boy Wario Land like effectively. Maybe I could like with Oculus or something. I don't know, but it's just like there's only one way to play those games, and it's with a Virtual Boy. And I've always kind of wanted one, and then my wife, she was just like, "Look, I'm just gonna get you one. You're looking at them; they're not crazy expensive. Here, have a Virtual Boy." I was like, "Okay, great."
Can I just really
I
quickly
got
interject and say I had such envy of your relationship in
Yeah.
that moment. I don't know the details of your personal life. That's your life. Hope you're living it well. But I saw that tweet because you told this story on Twitter, and I saw that and I'm like, wow, it would feel so good to have a partner who is supportive of the dumb video game trash I buy that I don't
Yeah.
need, like that I really don't need. And I even showed my boyfriend, and he likes games too, but he just isn't a fan of why are you buying all this stuff? Like if you're not going to use it, he definitely wouldn't impulse buy me the garbage I look at online. And I'm like, wow, I felt like one of those problematic dudes. What? Kyle's wife bought him a Virtual Boy. I don't just saying, it's nice. Must be nice, And he's like, I totally would never buy that. But yeah, I was like, damn, man, that's cool.
Way I could not justify that to
No.
a significant other, right? I can't be like, look, I need a Virtual Boy for these reasons. I'm going to spend the money on it. So I needed someone else to pull the
Exactly,
trigger.
and you didn't
for
even
me, but-
ask to. Anyway, go on with your story. But I was hating from outside the club when I was scrolling on Twitter about that. I'm like, damn, it'd be nice if someone bought me that Vectrex I was looking at. But,
Yeah.
But so I got a Virtual Boy, and it came with Mario Tennis, and I bought Virtual Boy Wario Land because I hear that's easily the best Virtual Boy game. And then I also bought Jack Brothers, which is technically the first, and the reason I wanted it was because it's technically the first Shin Megami game that ever came out.
That's
in America.
right. Yeah.
But I couldn't. The English version of the game is prohibitively expensive. It's more expensive than actually buying a Virtual Boy. But the Japanese version, for some weird reason, is reasonably priced.
Oh, weird.
So I got the Japanese version of Jack Bros. But I really just wanted to beat a virtual game before I died. And so I played and beat Virtual Boy Wario Land. I played the whole game. My timer clocked in at 3 hours. It's a very short game, but it felt like a lifetime because it turns out staring into that little screen is very uncomfortable and hurts your back and your eyes.
Your back.
So this is Kyle. This is my biggest question about this because I think Ben Hansen shares this with me.
Yes.
I get simulation sick. So 3D stuff and really twitchy first person games. I need to take Dramamine. I pulled out a Virtual Boy in the GI offices once and tried to play something on it.
Yeah.
And it was instant nausea. I have not gotten so sick so fast in my entire life. So
what a review.
So how long did it take you to get to feel uncomfortable in that?
Very quickly. I mean, it's pretty telling that every game, right when you turn it on, it says, "All right, we're gonna do this thing where after 20 minutes, we're automatically gonna pause the game for you to take a break." It's built in.
Really?
You can turn it off if you want, but it's gonna be defaulted on. And yeah, playing Wario Land, there was a little 20-minute timer in the corner that was counting down to when it would automatically pause. And I never saw that pause screen because I always had to take a break before. Before.
Wow.
It was done. Yeah, but yeah, no, I play more VR than most people, I think. Maybe not Leo Vader, who's Mr. VR, but playing Virtual Boy, honestly, I didn't get quite as nauseated as Joe describes, but I was getting I was sweating pretty quickly, just feeling and
just into the
because
headset?
it's
Sweat's pouring to your
because
eyes.
it's
It's hard to see.
the red and the red lines it's way more affecting after the fact too compared to VR. When you step away, your eyes just feel weird because you've just been staring at a grid of red lines.
My God.
It's weird.
Yeah, but how's that
I
game
wonder if
though?
they didn't take off.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
What went wrong?
But with all that being said, Wario Land was cool.
good.
I wish it had been ported to 3DS. It's really a shame that they didn't just bring the whole library over to 3DS and play it that way, because it's like, because the game's like, the first thing you see are these like boulders like swinging in your face, and it's cool, you know. And a lot of the game deals with you jumping back and forth between planes, like Rayman Legends style, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like a much more core part of the game. And like even the way Wario looks is kind of cool, because like his hands are stereoscopic, like you know, being in front of him, but his body is like a layer back, so like his animations look cool. Like it was a cool experience, but it was like a genuinely painful one to get through. Like it was not comfortable to play.
Yeah, God, that's brutal. But it is so weird that Nintendo has just disregarded this. I mean, the most they've done is what Luigi's Mansion 3 had that reference to the Virtual Boy or something, the Virtual Boo.
Well,
Yeah.
what was the DS?
They made Labo.
Tomodachi Life?
Yeah, Labo basically. Tomodachi Life. Yeah, does that have Virtual Boy in it?
Yeah, that was when I feel like Nintendo kind of decided that they could laugh at the Virtual Boy, because they would feature it in trailers, and there was like these like weird things where like you could make all your Miis dance around the Virtual Boy and worship it. And I think Reggie Fils-Aimé made some jokes about it at that point. Like there was a line that they crossed where they were like, okay, we can make fun of this thing now. you
Yeah,
know? And
okay.
I think it was Tomodachi Life on the 3DS is when that happened.
Weird.
They put one in Animal Crossing too, right?
I don't think maybe the older ones, not New Horizons.
I don't know.
Oh,
Could
okay.
be. Remember?
I've just got my wires crossed. I've played a lot of New Horizons, and I thought I remembered it.
It could be. It could be in there. Yeah. Joe or Kyle, do you remember when Game Freak told us that they were making a Virtual Boy game at some point? Or maybe that wasn't. Sorry, you weren't on that trip. Sorry, that was the second Game Freak trip. But yeah, they said that they were working on a new IP for Virtual Boy. But then it turns out that the system wasn't being supported, and they moved on quickly. But I would love to see what that is.
It is wild to look at the history of that thing and how quickly it sort of fell apart. Like it's weird.
And,
I don't know if you know offhand, but how big is that library?
ooh,
Like
It's
I wonder, can you
9
collect
games.
all of them?
It is, yeah. Like it is. I mean, some of the games are very expensive, and I think like Waterworld like got really limited release or something.
they made a
like that.
Waterworld game
But,
for
like,
Virtual Boy. Oh, I
Yeah,
wanna
it's like
see
you're on a
that.
ship. I looked up some gameplay of it. You're like on a ship on a 3D. It's like on a 3D ocean kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Janet, I think it's like less than. It's like 15 games.
It's
or something.
22.
So it is
apparently.
like.
bad.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay, so
22,
it's more
yeah.
than I thought. But it is like one that like if you were like a hardcore collector of like weird novelties, like you could get the whole Virtual Boy collection, you know, without having to keep a crazy Excel document.
Yeah.
you know?
But a lot of them are pretty expensive, like that Waterworld one. Like a lot of them.
How much
are.
is?
Yeah.
What's the ceiling here? Like $300 or like
don't know. It's a good
$3,000?
I think you're maybe getting into the 4 digits, maybe.
Really?
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah.
God.
Ugh.
I could be wrong about that. Because like I really wanted Jack Bros, but the English, I couldn't even find a decent like English one on eBay, like without the box being all tore up and stuff.
Weird.
Excuse me.
Well, I feel like
stuff
if you limit
that.
to the North American collection, that might be. Because
yeah,
they're
maybe.
imported Virtual Boy games.
So here, I pulled up
Probably.
something real quick. This is Google. So this is the English version of Jack Bros, which has like very different cover art. Just the cartridge. The sticker is torn to hell. $1,000.
Oh,
That's wild.
oh my
That's like up there. I
God.
feel like owning that as like a casual collector, because obviously there are people that like that's their life is collecting. But as a casual collector, that's like the gaming equivalent of like, remember back when apps first came out and they had like the $1,000 app that did nothing. It just showed you were rich.
just
It's
like
like that vibe.
That is equivalent. Yeah, even owning Waterworld, yeah, similar thing. There was a time in my life, I'm not proud of it, but like, you know, my first console was the PlayStation. So my gaming history before that is sketchy at best. There was absolutely a time in my life where I had played more Virtual Boy than Super Nintendo games. Because like my friend
What were you
had
playing?
a Virtual Boy. Like he went right from NES to Virtual Boy. So I played like a fair amount of
was a
Virtual
Virtual
Boy
Boy.
as like he was the Virtual Boy. And then someday later on, I guess I played Super Nintendo for a little bit. Obviously, I went back and caught up on all the classics and stuff like that. But for me, Virtual Boy is like, well, this thing's the coolest. My friend has it, and I don't. Therefore, it's the best.
What did you play? Did you beat Wario Land? Did you see the weirdly creepy end boss? It's,
No,
like, weirdly scary.
I think it must have just been tennis. Is it a Mario tennis game? That's for? Is that
Yeah,
was that like
Mario
a pack?
There is a
even?
tennis, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
probably just that. And we probably didn't play it that much, but technically played it more than Super Nintendo at a certain point. Anyways, that's Virtual Boy, everybody. Don't check it out. Run far away. Hey, Kyle, do you know how this whole thing operates?
Is it Patreon?
That's right. It's Patreon, everybody. If you enjoy this podcast, you can support it or join it over at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Joe Juba, there are 2 N's in MinnMax.
I'm aware, yes.
It's kind of like a Minnesota thing, I guess, is what we're going
yeah,
for.
yeah. Because 2 ends in Minnesota also.
Yeah. Honestly, Joe, it's a good sign of how sensitive I am secretly to everything. But like, I remember when I was at Game 4 when I said I was leaving to form a new thing, and you said, "What's the name of the thing?" And I was like, "Oh God, I've been dreading this moment to have to say the name out loud to a group." And I said, MinnMax. And you said, "Oh, that's good. That's a really good name." It's like, "Oh my God, thank you. Oh, that was such a relief to hear."
And then you really made the most of it with that first logo.
Hey, look, we don't talk about the first logo. You can buy a t-shirt of it, however. Anyways, the point is, thanks everybody who supports us over on Patreon, especially the big supporters like Fixture Gaming. They're back, everybody, with the Fixture S1. They want everybody to know about this clip that you put on your Nintendo Switch Pro controller. And then it's a very comfortable way to play Switch on the go, because everybody loves playing Switch on the go. Everybody's kind of sick of the Joy-Cons. Why not bring the Pro controller, the best controller, on the go by just sliding the screen on here? So thanks to the folks at Fixture Gaming, you can check out the Fixture S1 on their site. It comes in gray or red and blue. It's $35. You can also get the carrying case, the Fixture Gaming carrying case. And we are giving away one every month throughout the month of September. So if you would like to win a MinnMax custom Fixture S1, give us a follow on Twitter, which is at MinnMax Show. All one word, obviously, but MinnMax Show, give us a follow on Twitter. We're going to have a competition going up very soon, this Friday, so you have a very good chance of winning one. So thanks to the fine folks at Fixture. Go support them because they support us. Also, thanks to the wonderful folks at I Am 8-Bit. They want everybody to know that you can get the double vinyl soundtrack for Mutazione. The soundtrack for Mutazione, it comes with immersive garden gatefold. It includes extensive liner notes. The music, let me pop it up here, is by, of course, Alessandro Coronas, and the album art is by Nils Deniken, mastered for vinyl by Townsend Mastering. So check that out on their wonderful online store. It has so many wonderful things, and because they're very generous, they are shipping out a prize every single week to the MinnMax community, whoever has the best question of the week. And Kyle, this is amazing. This week, whoever has the best question is going to win the Mega Man X 30th Anniversary Classic Cartridge, which is a functioning copy of Mega Man X, but they only made a limited number of these. So you can thank I'm 8-Bit for being so generous with MinnMax and the MinnMax community by checking out their online store and using the promo code WAKEMEUP. Promo code WAKEMEUP, no space, all one word, for 10% off everything under $100. But, Joe, your job is to pay very close attention to all these questions, because this person's winning a very coveted Mega Man X Classic cartridge.
All right, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to do that.
I really need you to do that. I want you to remember the name of every single person that writes in with a great question over on Patreon.
I'm gonna forget, and I'm gonna wait for you at the very end of the Q&A to just run through.
Yeah, look, everybody does. Look, Joe,
what
I know that's what everybody does. I'm just asking. It's a lot to keep in mind. By the way, we got so many great questions this week. A lot of them were like kind of behind the scenesy stuff. Some stuff just about like tips on hosting a podcast and whatnot. Heads up for everybody, MinnMax Council is our Patreon exclusive podcast, and that is a great place to answer the more kind of in the weeds questions. And also, if you support us at that MinnMax Council tier, the $20 tier on Patreon, we are legally obligated to answer every single question you ask. So if you're ever upset, like, why aren't they answering my question on the podcast? We have to over on MinnMax Council, and it's a delight. So you can check that out. We'd appreciate the support as well. All right, Dennis M writes in and says, "Hey, MinnMax, do you think you've already played your favorite game of all time, or will it be replaced by a game in the future?"
Yes.
Yes, I think.
Yeah.
Janet is pausing. Do you think there's a
Look at
chance?
that. Yeah, I think there's always a chance. I think my favorite game has already changed over the years. Like at first it was, I think Mario 64 was my go-to. And then upon reflecting more and aging, I lean on Jak 2. But even that, I'm like, I feel like Jak 1 was Jak and Daxter original is kind of competitive with that.
Okay.
But I like to think that there's something else to love out there at that level. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a possibility.
I think I'm too nostalgic to ever let Final Fantasy VII or Shadow of the Colossus go at this point, unless I'm holding out the chance that, 100 years from now, if there's just like the Omni game, well, I guess I wouldn't be alive 100 years from now. Let's say 40 years from now, if they just have like the Omni
Times will catch
game,
up.
like, you know,
I think 40 years is also optimistic.
all right, if we're saying like 7 years from now, they have the super game where it's just
3 months from now.
if next week
When
they
Spider-Man 2 comes out in 2023.
That's right. No, if they just release a game that's basically, here's the world simulated. It's, you know, Microsoft Flight Simulator, but also the Matrix. Shove this jack into your head, and then you can do whatever you want. Like, I feel like that's the only chance that I would really have for like, this is my new favorite game, just virtual wacky world now. That's all that can top Final Fantasy VII. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind. Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, it really was. I really liked video games a lot, but then Ocarina of Time, like, really made me love video games and see them as like a different medium as a way to tell a story, and like that will just never be unseated. And I'm okay with that. I'm just change my whole perspective on what a video game can be and do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I guess for me, so like my favorite game is Final Fantasy VI, and that's one that I played. Well, okay, so I played it at a young age, and that's also a time when you I think you organize the world a lot more into favorites, right?
Right.
The best or rankings or whatever, and like it's like these days. I mean, there are games that I probably enjoy as much or more, or appreciate as much or more now, but my brain doesn't necessarily always go to like, is this a favorite or not a favorite, kind of thing. I don't know. I'm kind of making this point hand-handedly, but I guess the point is like as I age, I think there's just more space for nuance and appreciation, a bigger tent, right? Like, hey, I like all kinds of games. All you great games get in here, rather than like, here's the seat at my right hand for my favorite game.
Right.
But then tied into that is also just, I think, like Kyle said with his game, it's just that there's like an eye-opening moment, that pivot point where it's like that was the game for me where I liked games before, and then there was just something like transformative about playing that game in the moment. That's never going to be like, I think lots of games can create that feeling for someone, but I don't know that can be replicated once it's happened.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm a Biggie Boy writes in over on Patreon and says, now that you're recording live, do you actually feel alive? Does anybody want to feel this one?
That's right.
Yeah, he's just asking if you feel alive, Janet, right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty alive. I'm pretty alert.
Okay.
Really just gunning for like the nap I'm gonna take after this, honestly.
I'm so alert, I'm nap gunning. Jared R. Meyer writes in.
I'm leaving it all on the floor, you know what I mean? Like,
I love
this is the all of me, and at the end there's just unconsciousness.
You're the Jordan of podcasting.
What is life if not nap anticipation?
Yeah.
And what is death if not the greatest nap of all time?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, that sweet death nap. Ooh, that's going to be sweet. Anyways, Jared R. Meyer writes in and says, hey guys, there's this little thing called the public domain that's really cool. It has IP such as Peter Pan, Treasure Island, Dracula, the works of Shakespeare, The Great Gatsby, and is even about to add Winnie the Pooh. Is that right? God, that's cool. My question is...
Well, Disney will step in. They every time Mickey gets close to being public domain, like
You're
literally,
right, they keep
like, Disney
cutting in.
will...
Right, and so they can't lose Winnie either. But my question is, why aren't indie developers utilizing this? These are fantastic, memorable properties that are playgrounds for everyone. Give me the Jane Austen dating sims. Give me the open world Treasure Island game. Give me Romeo and Juliet in a survival horror zombie game. Am I nuts? Books dip into this well all the time, so why don't more video games? I love this question, Jared. I think you're absolutely right. It's not really done. And
I think the biggest thing you see is like integrations.
Like Project Steam having like Lincoln and stuff in there or whatever.
Yeah, kind of. Or like when I saw this question, the first thing I thought of was the game Dear Reader on Apple Arcade, which is one of my favorite Apple Arcade games, where it's literally so it's basically just gamifying like different texts, like poems and novels and things, and like there's different word games you play, and it's all with that, and you can even read all those books through that game.
That is
like just
right,
straight up, like for like a non-play mode. I'm also thinking of like The Longing, which is that one weird indie game we saw on the Switch one of the indie showcases, where it's like in real time, sort of, but you can speed up time. That has like some not full novels in it. I think about Animal Crossing having real paintings in it. Like I feel like we see integrations and pulling from that, but I do think as much as it sounds cool to have like a zombie Romeo and Juliet, I feel like people more so enjoy building on like the thematics that are laid from those materials rather than trying to like replicate and remix those materials.
But it feels like, you remember years ago when they released like Chess 2 on Steam, and everybody, at least in my circle, at least talked about it because like that's such a bold move. And this is one of those amazing like epiphanies of course, there's no copyright on chess. Just release a game on Steam called Chess 2. It's hilarious, and you'll get a little more attention. Like, I'm amazed that, there hasn't been some weird asymmetric multiplayer game that they just called Romeo and Juliet. I just feel like people aren't just tapping into that for the obvious, easy headline, right? Like there's a DS game. I don't know if you remember this one, Joe. Surprisingly cool RPG on the DS that was just Wizard of Oz. And it wasn't like tied into the movie. It was just like working off of the original book, I'd imagine, again. But it's like, that's cool.
Yeah,
I picked up and played it because of that.
I think I reviewed that.
Okay. It's a
I
solid...
reviewed that. Or if I didn't review it, it was so bad that I elected not to review it.
It's a solid Jojoba 725. I'm feeling confident about that.
But so I guess I really agree with Janet on that, though, is like, I think that there's so already in gaming and like the way licensing works is like even the games with the biggest, most popular, like global media juggernaut tie-ins are still like, I mean, something like Avengers, for instance, right? Like even that's not some guarantee of success.
Right.
So, like, I guess part of me wonders, like, if you're an indie developer and you're interested in exploring those themes, like Janet said, like why would you not sort of repurpose them and make it your own rather than sort of carrying the baggage of something like Romeo and Juliet? Because while ultimately that may be a funny headline, like, oh, hey, look, it's Romeo and Juliet with zombies. Is that really more of like a gimmick than like an actual like, adaptation of something?
But
right?
what about something like, Treasure Island or something? I do feel like there is a lot of opportunity. If somebody made like an open world RPG and it was a Peter Pan Neverland, like, sign me up, dude. That sounds great. I just feel like there's an avenue for it's not just a cheap gimmick.
I don't know, because I guess I feel like, let's say, okay, so what are the elements of Peter Pan, right? Like a bunch of cool pirates, some kids up in the tree. I'm thinking a Hook here. I love Hook.
That's right. Yeah.
And at the centerpiece of it all is like, you've got this immortal boy who can fly. Like, do you really need Peter Pan to make that interesting?
Or basically Iron Man,
Or are those elements that you sort of put your own ownership on, like take ownership of, put your own spin on it?
I know you're not like this, but the world today craves attention. And putting your own spin on, look, it's a game where you're flying around and fighting pirates. People maybe would pay attention in the best case scenario. You make a Peter Pan game about flying around and fighting pirates. It's going up on Joystick, just for a very timely reference. I don't know. Big gaming
Joystick
news.
was a good site, Ben, but it's been what, 10 years?
What?
Almost?
No!
Yeah. Anyway.
Right. People are tweeting about it, I guess, is the new Joystick. Anyways, I'm shocked. I think people should do it more. Right, Kyle?
No, I'm with Joe on this one.
Okay, cool.
Do your own thing.
Yeah. Kyle, your camera's all blurry, by the way, unless you rubbed Vaseline on it to make yourself look
I
blurry.
actually do need to get going here soon, so maybe that's the sign to depart. Blurry camera time.
Are you leaving us right now?
Yeah, you said I could. You gave me permission.
All right. Do you want to clap out and I'll perfectly time it?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, hey, you know what? Actually, before I go, we missed it on the PlayStation Showcase, but that game, I think it's pronounced Chia.
Yeah.
THCI.
Yeah.
TCHIA. Game looks cool.
Yeah, it's very.
All I wanted to say.
It had a glider. Well, it had a way to glide, so I thought of you immediately.
Yeah, turn into animals. You can glide
that's all
around.
I need, man.
Yeah, it seems cool. I'm curious to see more of that. But all right, Kyle, thanks for being here, dude.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys. Bye. You good?
Well, now you have to
That was
leave.
great.
Kyle, we're still
I'm sad I
live.
can't see it again.
Kyle, you're shattering all of the clap illusions. It's all gone.
Oh.
Okay, you got to go, Kyle. Bye.
Do you want me to like leave my camera and
Kyle,
like do this? Does that help
no,
you?
This is worse. You need to leave right now or else everything is shattered.
Okay, bye.
Okay, but Jesus, this frickin' guy. Okay, hang on. And now
So when you say leave now, that like now? Or
No,
like
Janet, you stay.
couple
Okay,
seconds?
but you stay. What did he think was happening? All right, hey, look at this, everybody. Don't look for the man behind the curtain. Hey, look at this. Everybody, look at this. Victor Pham wrote in, and he says, what games have had too much marketing to the point that you were tired of the game before it was even out? Feels like we've seen Deathloop enough times that I have almost no interest in actually playing the game at this point.
Oh, so like as someone who covered games on a daily basis on a sort of, like posting news stories and stuff.
Yeah.
If I never see another Mortal Kombat trailer for any,
How dare you?
It just felt like every day it was some new character reveal or some new fatality reveal or some new move that some character. It's just like, how every day there's a new Mortal Kombat video leading up to one of those.
Yeah,
and it's not like I don't even remember which one it was. It's every Mortal Kombat game that I can remember for the last what, 3 entries.
Yeah,
I guess.
it never ends. Yeah, Deathloop is totally in this camp. I totally get it. I'm excited about that game. I feel like I and a lot of people were sold on it a long time ago with the pitch and style, and now it's just, here's a new song from the 60s or 70s and a new look at this island. It's like, yeah, just let us play it already, please. I think Far Cry 6 is in this territory for me. Like, I don't know how many times you need to show, hey, look, it's Gus, everybody, from Breaking Bad. Don't you want to fight him? Yeah, just give me the game now, please.
Yeah, anytime a game has that at any E3 where they appear at multiple press conferences, it really sort of gets the like, oh boy, here we go kind of
right
juices flowing.
Guardians of the Galaxy, yeah. Alex K submits a question over on Patreon. Which, do we explain this, by the way? All these questions come from Patreon. Support us at any tier. You can submit a question every week. Sometimes I feel like we gloss over the basics. But anyways, Alex K submitted a question and said, hey, I just want to know Joe's Columbo Day plans early this year. Can he bring some Columbo content to the MinnMax channel?
Well, so with the pandemic and the Delta variant and the waves being what they are, I've elected to not host the party again this year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Which last year, I also didn't host a party, and what I did is I sort of sent out little boxes with custom printed USBs with Columbo episodes loaded on them, so people could watch them on their own, which ended up being kind of expensive, which I was fine doing, but I no longer have a full-time job, so I don't think I'm going to do that same thing this year, but I'm going to find some sort of solution to deliver Columbo to my guest list and figure that out.
Weren't you and Ross, the Star Wars guy, fund himself, talking about wanting to do some nonsense?
Yeah. So then as for bringing Columbo content to MinnMax, yeah. So Ross and I were talking because he's a big fan of Murder, She Wrote.
Right.
And I'm a big fan of Columbo.
These are a couple cool guys, Janet. Just in case you're wondering if you're looking for like a label, the label is cool guys.
Thank you.
Very, very young and hip dude. Watching 70s mystery.
USBs? Like, what's going on?
He meant floppies.
I don't get it.
Anyway, so yeah, Ross and I were talking about maybe coming up with some sort of like new show plus or something, or like or if not that, maybe just some like, one-off podcast episode or something that we can sort of figure something out there. But yeah, it's still in flux.
Okay, we'll see. Let us know in the comments. Seriously, I'm scared you might break YouTube, so just one comment at a time, everybody. Take it easy. But if you have ideas for what type of Columbo and Murder, She Wrote content you want from MinnMax, just let us know in the comments, everybody. Let's see. Rick says, hey, y'all, what are your top 5 games on your Switch when you sort by total playtime? Any surprises in there? Janet, help me out. I was digging around. Is there a way to sort by total playtime? It just shows like the 20 most recent or something, right?
You can sort by total playtime. You go to like all the games, like all software, and then you click R, and then you click by total playtime. I will say, I think there's a flaw in the system because I know at one point, and I have a different Switch than my original Switch that I bought on day one. Yeah. And like it tells me that like I played almost no Splatoon, and I've put in hundreds of hours. So it's an imperfect system for sure. Huh. It's definitely an imperfect system. I actually don't know what these hours are from when I hit the sort because I know it's not accurate. So I'll probably have to just guess what mine are from this question just because I don't know why the hours are. This does not seem like.
What are the inaccurate hours?
Yeah, what are they telling you?
What does it tell you they are?
It tells me, I think at one point it said Splatoon 2, you've played this for a little while. And I'm like, absolutely not. I've played this my entire life.
That's insulting.
But like, what does the Switch think your top 5 are?
Oh, well, right now when I do sort by total playtime, it says Animal Crossing, Ring Fit. Those 2 might be true.
Okay.
Shikaku Shapes, that's not true. It's a puzzle game and it was hard. It took me a while. That's not true. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. Look, I did spend a lot of time because I did the review. So I don't know, maybe something. Then like Eagle Island, I played that game decently, but I didn't even beat it. Splatoon 2. So that I feel like there's a lot of inaccuracies there. But if I'm trying to remember my total play time, because when you click on your profile, it tells you the actual hours. It's a mess. Probably Animal Crossing, Ring Fit, Splatoon 2. Maybe something like maybe Mario Maker 2. I feel like I went pretty hard on Mario Maker 2 when it first came out.
I trust this system. I think you put more time into Eagle Rock Mountain or whatever the name of that game was.
Eagle Island. Okay. And it's good. It's a good game.
All right. So mine, sorting by total playtime, number 1, Animal Crossing. Number 2, Breath of the Wild. Number 3, Smash Brothers.
That's my other one.
Yeah, Smash is like 45 hours apparently. Then Puyo Puyo Tetris. I've put a lot of time to Puyo Puyo Tetris. Excellent local competitive Tetris. And then Pokemon Shield after that. So
yeah, I probably have from yours. I actually think Breath of the Wild and Pokemon are probably in there above like maybe Mario Maker 2. So it's probably like Mario Make, Ring Fit, Animal Crossing, Pokemon, Breath of the Wild, and then maybe like Splatoon 2 are probably my highest ones. All in the 50 or higher, hundreds for most of those.
Sure. Joe, you got them? Top 5?
Yeah. Yep. I looked mine up. My number 1 is Stardew Valley.
Ooh.
Number 2 is Dragon's Dogma on Switch.
Perfect.
3 is Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Oh, yeah.
4 is Animal Crossing New Horizons. And 5 is Octopath Traveler.
Love it. There you go. There you go, Alex. Rick. Okay, look, this next question starts weird, but stick with me. Stick with me. Chandler Miller writes into Patreon and says, "Hello, Joe and MinnMax people. How often do you think about video game characters naked? How often do you contemplate the fact that if you removed a character's clothing, there would be no skin underneath? All you would be left with is a void. Am I weird for thinking about how the clothes are actually part of the character's being whenever video game clothes catch my attention? That whenever you change shirts in a game, you're actually swapping out entire torsos?" Yeah, that's weird that you're so focused on it, Chandler, but I do think it's a fun idea to think about, that it is just a torso changing and not actually clothes. They're not replicating fabric in any of these games. Maybe some Uncharted.
I mean, it could that flannel shirt could just as well be like a big hairy chest that someone is just taking off to reveal a less hairy chest.
Yes, when are these cowards finally going to put that in a game?
No,
Wolverine, probably.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
A big reveal.
Big scene. He shaves off his skin.
The big reveal. He is really scrawny and hairless. He's in one of those hilarious muscle suits all the time. It's an interesting idea because like there's sort of a related topic that I remember thinking about when I was reviewing Heavy Rain, and there was a nude scene in that where like the character, what was her name? The reporter. I think it was Madison.
Rain.
Yeah, I think it was Matt. Anyway, so when the reporter, Mrs. Rain, nice to see you. Please step into the shower. And so, there's a scene when she goes into. There's a scene when she goes into the shower and she takes her clothes off, and like I guess there'd been nudity in games before that, but for some reason, as I'm watching this, it's occurring to me like, what a weird process it is. Like imagining someone at their computer using Maya or whatever, like 3D modeling program.
My oh my.
And having to take what's normally just a normal, like a map of a body,
right,
and be like, all right, well, like better add some realistic nipples on here.
It's really gross.
Someone has to actively make something look naked,
right?
Right. I don't know why that specific effort felt so strange. Like imagining that specific effort in that moment felt very strange to me.
Yeah, like all the Mass Effect characters, somebody had to model their butt cracks. Like, okay, let's get the curvature, let's get this shape rolling. It's a weird side of the industry, but
Talk about assets, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But we did all the calculations. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I think I only think of the fact that the fabric is not necessarily fabric when there's like those weird horrific glitches where like half the face comes off and you just see the pieces and stuff. Like that's probably the extent of it. But
yeah, I remember at some point Warren Spector in an interview was talking about, he has to be smart in a lot of interviews, so he says a lot of stuff. But this one stood out to me, where he said like, oh, it's just crazy that everything you see in a video game is only a pixel deep. It's like, that is weird. Like nothing is solid in a video game. Even like the most solid game ever made, which I would argue is like Inside. It's still just everything in that game is only 1 pixel deep, as far as I understand. Let me know, developers, if that's not true. So,
also, I think the weirdest thing about the I actually haven't played Heavy Rain, but I was watching someone stream it, and of course, if you're streaming that game with the nudity, you're like, oh my god, like I can't really show nudity. So you see a lot of clips of streamers moving their camera quickly and trying to hide, like her like nipples, for lack of a less graphic term, I guess. But what's funny about that scene to me is that she takes off her clothes to shower, normal stuff, but then when she's out of the shower, she puts back on those clothes. Who's taking off their underwear to shower and putting back on the same underwear?
Yeah, that's a weird move. That's a weird move.
Like, that's so upsetting.
Yeah.
Time to get the same kind of dirty, but just reset the clock.
Right? Yeah. She's like, I flipped it inside out. It's all bugged up. I don't know.
Oh, so also, if you want to see tangent, but the funniest Heavy Rain thing that you can look up online is the deliberately failed race through the marketplace. There's like,
it's not the Jason stuff.
I want to play this now.
It's been several years since I've seen this video, but there's someone who's recording. It's like you basically have to do a bunch of quick time like button presses to like jump over chickens and slide across counters as you're like chasing after this. Anyway, the person's playing is like deliberately failing them. So this chase just ends up being this cartoonish thing where you're like bumping into people and stepping on chickens and tripping over things. And the person watching it just has one of those infectious laughs where like as it's going on, they're just cackling the whole time. And it is impossible to not cackle along. So look that up.
Look that up, everybody. Podbod submits a question on Patreon and says, yo, yeah, and the CLCs. That's us. What do you think is the best simple invention? I'm not talking cell phone or car. I'm talking about basic creations that help us a lot each day. I'm talking fork, underwear, pillow, towel, umbrella, screw. A lot of examples. So what do you think is the best simple invention?
How basic is simple, though? I feel like a fork is kind of complex to me.
What fork are you using?
That's like I saw a pop socket for this. Like super simple, you don't really need it. If we're going that simple, which to me isn't simple at all, probably like a tampon or a menstrual pad. I feel like that was a revolution in itself.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think tampon would count for simple invention. I mean,
yeah, pads and pop sockets. That's what I'm going with.
That said, if I was in the wilderness and my significant other needed this, I don't think I could make them a tampon out of the forest. So I'm trying to think.
Definitely would not. Do not put forest tampons inside of yourself.
We're not talking about like DIY survival inventions.
I think that's a good definition of simple. Like I could make a fork in the woods if I really had to.
Okay, so you have to be able to make it? Is that
I don't
what
know.
Simple is? You can't make make underwear. Like you just
watch me
drop in Victoria's Secret style labor.
Yeah, I could get like some bark off an aspen.
My answer to this, I think, is can opener. But again, I guess that
you definitely can't make that.
You're right. All right, forget the make thing. Forget the make thing. That's confusing.
Yeah.
What? Okay, I got.
For a can opener like that revolutionized this whole like food storage preservation and things like that, right? Like if you can make like shelf stable things, store them in cans to preserve them, and then like use this can opener to access them when you want to. I think that's pretty high up there and awesome quality of life. And
the Scrub Daddy's pretty good. That sponge.
Scrub Daddy.
It's like it can be hard and soft depending on the water temperature. Like that's the only sponge I use now.
Okay, that sounds good. Shoehorn. Don't leave your house without a shoehorn. No.
You know, I don't have a shoehorn anymore. We had one growing up. I don't have one. Yeah, like they're nice. Like I still slide my feet into the shoes. Like I haven't unlaced in years, but
Oh, of course. Yeah, you're not a mad woman. I was joking.
time for that?
Shoehorn is. I remember my grandparents were all about shoehorns. I was like, what is silly
it's great.
thing?
Have you ever used a shoehorn?
I used it as like a novelty over at their place, but I never thought like I need to buy a shoehorn.
Okay, you don't need to buy it, but I guarantee you, if you had it, you would always use it.
They're so silly. All right, the MinnMax shoehorn.
ever
new
use-
merch.
You ever use shoe trees? My grandparents used shoe trees.
Oh, it's like a coat rack, but for shoes.
No, it's like, or maybe I have the wrong word. The thing I'm thinking of is like, it's almost like a
Let me look this
wooden.
up.
It's like a wooden foot. It's like a
Oh my God, I'm
wooden
scared.
shape. It's like a wooden
Yeah.
shaped thing.
Oh, okay.
And it
My dad
stretches
had one
it?
of these. Yes.
You put them inside the shoe to help it hold
Yeah.
its shape, but it's like, yeah, it looks like a weird like wooden skeleton foot. Almost.
It looks like part of Pinocchio's like attachment or something, like the
Yeah,
strap
yeah.
style. Okay, I have not used those. I don't think I would use that is something if you gave me, I don't think I would use them. Like maybe
Yeah.
to be, I don't know, but like that's something my dad would use for like maybe like dress shoes, you know? Like you wouldn't just put that in any shoe. But yes, this is like memory unlocked. I didn't know what they were called.
It's weird that with the rise of sneaker culture, and Janet, you're hip, you're down with the rise of sneaker culture. I haven't seen an equal rise of shoehorn and shoe trees. Like shoe accessories don't seem to be rising, or am I just not hip? Do sneaker pros like are they really into shoehorns?
I mean, I am not like a certified sneakerhead.
Okay,
I like shoes, but I'm broke and lazy. So, but I don't think that's really a part. I feel like more the cleaning is the big thing, like Crep Protect and stuff like that, like making sure you have all that. And like some people maybe buy like stuff for the outside of your sneaker if it's like raining and muddy. But honestly, most people just use grocery bags for that. Like if you're really about this life and you're like, I'm not trying to mess these up, you take some grocery bags and then you just go about your day.
Yeah, all right. What about this? Double whammy. Sunscreen. Does that count? Simple invention?
It's like a whole chemical concoction.
Yeah, like
Okay.
I feel like for simple, I read this as like you really don't need it. It's really basic, but like it's good. Like it
Okay.
can't be like y'all are out here like, oh, the wheel, pretty simple. Like
Right. Okay. Here's a real contender.
factory.
Correct me if this is wrong and not technically an invention. I think it counts as an invention. Heimlich maneuver. Does that count as an invention? It was invented in like the 60s, which seems
It does, but
pretty-
like
know how
no
to-
one likes that guy.
yeah.
Also, I feel like you say it's simple, but it's also like really easy to mess up. Like with a can opener, you open a can and you have it. With a
I've had
Heimlich
people mess up
maneuver-
opening the can.
Okay,
You
yeah,
like,
that's true.
hit it the wrong way, you're gonna cut yourself. on that. Are you kidding?
100%. You see somebody do the Heimlich, you see somebody open a can, you then have to dive in and do one of them, you will more
You have to save
successfully do
Ben's
the
life.
Heimlich
I have to
maneuver.
open this can of beans.
No,
I
wait.
choked on the beans.
No. Look, Ben, I am upset at how dangerously easy you think the Heimlich maneuver is.
I think I
and
can
it's
do it.
not, It's not just what you've seen on TV shows and stuff. You need to like you can't just be like, I think the Heimlich maneuver is just hugging someone from behind and squeezing them. You
That's
you
something
could
else.
really hurt someone that way.
No, Joe, I've seen Mrs. Doubtfire at least 4 times, and I think I can do the Heimlich based on that scene.
Okay, yep, super easy. Never
Thank you.
mind.
Hey, Crater writes in and says, when Nintendo released NES games for the Switch Online, they also made NES controller Joy-Cons. When they released Super Nintendo games, they released a Bluetooth Super Nintendo controller. With Nintendo rumored to release Game Boy games to Switch Online, do you think we'll get a Joy-Con that's just the bottom half of a Game Boy? Excellent question. No, but that does sound very fun.
We might get like what, Game Boy colored Joy-Cons?
Okay,
Right?
sure. But this classic, you think is too retro for them? I think they would want to lean into that nostalgia.
The
Yeah.
Game Boy and Watch. It's like
Okay.
even smaller, but that's the Game Boy Micro. Re-release the Game Boy Micro.
Yep,
I never got one.
that's the solution. Justin Mick writes in and says, hey, everybody. Every time there's a new Sony presentation, I get excited thinking about some of the old gems of the PlayStation 1 that will somehow find a return. Games like Jet Moto, Siphon Filter, Legend of Dragoon, and Colony Wars. Hell yeah, Colony Wars are all old PS1 games that I still love and would gladly welcome some sort of return. Are there any semi-obscure PS1 games you hope will someday be brought back?
I have 2 big ones on
Please.
this front. Vagrant Story.
Ooh, very good.
And Valkyrie Profile. Though Valkyrie Profile did get some follow-ups, but it
Vagrant
is definitely like out of the common consciousness now, right? And
Yeah.
I love that game.
Vagrant Story is a game that my friend had, and I loved RPGs, especially in that era. And I remember looking at it and just thinking, I am not smart enough for this game. And then like last year or something, somebody was just posting like gameplay clips of Vagrant Story, and it was visually, I think, the coolest thing I've ever seen on the PS1. It just looks ridiculously cool.
Vagrant Story is just an amazing game. Back when they announced, when they sort of had the fake out PS stores closing down earlier this year,
right.
I went and did on a purchasing spree, and I'm pretty sure that Vagrant Story is one of those that I was like, oh, I don't own a physical copy of this. I need to buy the digital version of Vagrant Story so I can, go back to that again someday, which I might never do, but
yeah,
I would like to be able to do.
I
so.
get it. Is it set in Ivalice, technically, or is it just the creator?
I think it is.
Okay.
Oh, it's been a long time. That's something I should know off the top of my head.
Yeah. I know this is a stupid little factoid, but I always love that Vagrant Story. It's technically in the credits they listed as Vagrant Story: The Phantom Pain as the name. It's like, oh, it's cool to have that weird Metal Gear connection, which I think invented the phrase Phantom Pain. But yeah, mine is also from Square. That was Square that did Vagrant Story. Yeah, it must have been. Yeah. But
and Valkyrie Profile. Well, no, Valkyrie Profile was Enix.
Right before they fused.
Yeah.
But mine, Joe, I don't think I've ever talked to you about this game, which is rare because I think we've talked about every game under the sun. But Threads of Fate was an action RPG on the PlayStation 1 that I really enjoyed. I don't know how well it's aged, but that seems like nobody has talked about that game since the month after it released. But that was cool, man.
I don't know Threads of Fate.
What? Really?
No.
1999.
But you could in this alternate universe where these games come back.
Just imagine. I know that I think everybody would leave the Patreon, but imagine if we did a deepest dive on Threads of Fate. Just like going
before
deep
Chrono Cross.
Right. We hear the people's demands.
The PS1 RPG people want from Square. Threads of Fate, everyone.
Hell yeah, get Mint and Rue back in action. Anyways, let's see. Jason Wojnar writes in and says, hello, everybody. Game Informer, who's that? Has a new segment called Heat Map on their podcast where they ask listeners to send in an audio recording of a hot take they believed in. I submitted that Uncharted 4 is the weakest game in the Uncharted series, and everybody in the show basically tore me a new one. And Jason, first of all, you are wildly incorrect on that theory, but I listened to that episode, and it did make me laugh. They're like, oh, that seems like a fun segment for a show. And then everybody who submitted a message, they were just annihilated for 5 minutes after everyone being like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Welcome to the industry.
Yeah, I guess that's basically it, right? But anyways, Jason says, aside from the logic of tearing someone down for giving you something you asked for, have you ever stated a video game opinion or hot take that got you laughed out of the room? For example, like somebody really, really liking Metroid Other M. Joe, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but
no,
yeah.
I don't like Metroid Other M. Stop telling people
I
like
heard
Metroid
otherwise.
Other M.
I heard otherwise from Andy
That's what I
McNamara. He's a
heard.
very reliable source.
No. I'm really interested in Janet's answer to this one because
Is everyone mad at me all the time?
no, as someone who's been listening to the MinnMax show for a long time, like since you've come on, I've always enjoyed your ability to state an opinion, even if it's not like a consensus opinion, and support it well, And as someone who's I like game reviews and stuff like that, I appreciate a well-constructed argument, and I feel like you're very good at that, and I want to hear what you have to say.
But no pressure. You don't have to defend it. You can just say the hot take.
I will say, well, my hot take is that I don't, a lot of people say like, oh, like Jay out here with the hot takes, like Jay, and that's, I'm glad people appreciate my voice and things, but like my hot take is I don't think I really have hot takes, because to me a hot take is you kind of know it's not true, and you're kind of just trying to like get a rise.
Like
when people say like Breath of the Wild isn't good, I'm like,
yes.
All right, man, like you could just do your thing, I guess. But I mean, I have definitely opinions that are not consensus or necessarily well received. I mean, I think my most recent one is that like the Uncharted series is overrated, which I stand by that. I'm playing 4 finally for the first time, and it's fine, but it's not blowing my mind. I think a lot of times like my hot takes are this game isn't mind blowing, which I feel like is not that crazy to say about any game, even if the game is mind blowing. So I'm trying to think if there's one that's like really wild. I guess maybe I didn't like New Super Mario Bros. U. Like, I feel like some people really like that. I didn't think it was very good. Like, I don't know. Like,
That's frigid.
Yeah, that's
that
kind
is room temperature take.
Maybe today with Ico or whatever. Like,
Okay, not liking.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like I think those games are just, but they're kind of designed to be a little frustrating. But I feel like they're just kind of clunky, and
I think
I'm
going
not really
back
into
to
them,
it,
but
yeah, going back to it, I think
Yeah.
would be a little bit tricky. As much as I loved that game when it came out.
Yeah, and this question gets a little close to the common, like, what's your most controversial gaming opinion?
Right,
too.
right.
But like the one that I remember, like, getting laughed out of the room, like it not really a hot take because I did like genuinely believe it, is that like that Final Fantasy VIII was a good game and better than Final Fantasy IX, and that was one of those things where I think in the wake of FF7, FF8 was not what people wanted or expected, and then when 9 was sort of this throwback to the older days, I think people really liked that and sort of made 8 this black sheep when it remains like one of my favorite games in the series. Oh, also I gave Metal Gear Solid 4 a 10, and people do not agree with that one either. But
It's a tough 10, Joe. Love that game. That's a tough 10, baby.
Hey, man.
Or also on your hot take, I remember 2013, you argued that BioShock. Well, I think you conceded quickly, but you argued that BioShock Infinite should be the game of the year over The Last of Us. Which I was like, "Whoa, that's a hot take." I think for that year.
I mean, I would not. I think time has proven me incorrect on that.
Oh, what a big man! Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I don't know that in the moment that was I don't feel like that was outrageous in the moment.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Donnie submits a question over on Patreon and says, "Hey friends, how often do you wash your everyday mug? Oh, and one more thing. I almost forgot, Joe. What would be your ideal Columbo video game?"
Boy. So I think about this a lot, and I go back and forth because like so much of what makes Columbo good as a show for me is that you don't have like is that there is no input in it, right? It's so the unfolding of the mystery is so carefully scripted, right, that you can't just like give players a bunch of clues and have them sort of like fumble through it. I the more I think about it, the more I think the way you need to do it is almost like an Ace Attorney game.
Yep.
Like it's almost just got to be a visual novel where the characters and the story sort of built without your control until the moment where they're like, what is the critical piece of evidence? And then you can feel like a smart person for saying, it's this, I figured it out. But like, if you make it a normal adventure game, which is what I thought I wanted for a while, then it's like, oh, here's Columbo trying to combine haphazardly a bunch of items in his inventory and they're not working. And it's like, that's not what you want.
That's true. That's fair. Steister writes in and says, "Hey, CLCs.
So what about the mug?
Oh, the mug. I guess I do every day, but a quick rinse. Like it's a while before I do the big scrub because it kind of gets all dirty and tea stained on the inside.
Oh, see, I always I don't always scrub. I put it in the sink and someone in my apartment cleans usually the dishes. I don't do a lot of dishes in my apartment, admittedly. But what is this everyday mug? Like, no, I have like 12 mugs and I'm trying to get more. Like there's no everyday mug.
Really?
Like I have this mug. I have my Mario mug. I have my second Mario mug, and I have an Odyssey mug, a general Mario mug, this LA mug, a Celeste mug, a Rise and Shine or something mug, a couple mugs from Daiso. Like, y'all out here with just one mug? Y'all live in this one mug life in your home? Like maybe in an office or something. You want to bring your whole cabinet.
Can
Monogamous?
somebody help me say this word?
Mugonimus?
Mugonymous? Yeah, mugonymous, I think is the word I'm looking for.
Oh my god, like monogamy.
Yeah, that's
mugs.
That's the joke.
What should we
boy.
drink? What's in these mugs? What's going on right now?
It's a mess. Anyways,
Yeah.
hey,
That's how my wife does it too. We have a cabinet full of mugs, and she just sort of uses a new one every day and cycles through them with the wash. I use the same one the same one basically every day. Just fill it up and basically rinse it out every day and give it the scrub every week.
There we go. I don't know how much. I wonder how much Donnie actually wanted to know about the mug stuff versus just wanted
just
to
do
have
the
that
one more
line
thing.
80. Yeah.
Hey, don't play around here.
Don't play around with mug talk. Steister submits a question and says, "Hey CLCs, I've got a game for you to put your video game knowledge to the test. In Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, when fighting on the boxing ring stage from Punch-Out, on the screen in the background, the characters are displayed with a title describing that character. Jojuba, for example, when Sonic the Hedgehog is displayed, he's described in the boxing arena as the blue blur. So can you name these characters just from their title in the Punch-Out stage in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate?" Okay, it might not be as hard as you think. Scoundrel with a fart of gold. Wario, congratulations. Wants to be the very best. Like no one
Pokemon
ever.
trainer.
There we go. Great job, Janet. The Prescriber.
Dr. Mario.
Oh my God, amazing. Master of Two Dimensions.
I don't know enough of
One of the
I don't know enough
Sword
Smash
Boys?
Brother characters.
Fire Emblem?
No. Think more like the only 2D fighter.
Is the hand guy in there?
No.
Is that him?
Master Hand?
Nope. Chat's got it. That is Game and Watch. Congratulations.
Okay, yeah.
The BMI Bandit.
Wii Fit Trader.
Yeah, way to go. Omnivore of the Year.
Kirby.
You would think so, but no.
No, that's correct.
Well, meat and leaves. Omnivore.
But this is a character that also eats a lot, but it eats it by licking it up.
Lick a tongue? No, that's not right.
Says Boing Hop a lot. Janet, you streamed his game, this noble character's game, earlier this year because it's the first game you ever played.
Yoshi,
there we go.
Yoshi himself.
Ooh, this one's tricky. Joe, but it's up your alley. The Warrior Within. What Smash character would they list as the Warrior Within? Not the warrior you're used to seeing, but the one inside of that one. The star of one of your favorite games of all time on the Wii.
What?
She's in the game.
Oh, is it Samus?
There we go. Zero Suit Samus.
Zero Suit Samus.
Oh.
All right, last one is Bloom of Your Doom.
Is it Piranha Plant?
There we go. Way to go, Janet. Killing it. Very impressive. I wouldn't have gotten that one.
All this useless Nintendo knowledge finally going to work.
You got it. All right, Joe. Unprompted. What's the question of the week? Who wins the Mega Man X cartridge?
So I knew what it was, and I went to write it down, and then I got distracted, and I never wrote it down.
Okay,
so
great.
I am actually going to need a run through.
Okay, great. If you could just show us the piece of paper that has one line on it, we would appreciate it. Let's see. I like hot takes. I like simple inventions. I like naked characters.
Oh, that's the one. I
Simple
like the
Inventions?
Simple Invention one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Janet, you like it too?
Same. Yeah.
All right.
Because we didn't know how to answer it.
There we go. Congratulations, Podbod. You just won question of the week from I Am 8-Bit. And by the way, you can always go to I Am 8-Bit's online store to buy a lot of these items yourself if you're interested. And use that promo code Wake Me Up with no spaces for 10% off. We'd appreciate it. Now it's time for something we like to call Get a Load of This. All right. And yes, I realize you're watching the video version. I forgot to put the music track in there, but you get the idea. All right. Hey, Joe, do you have something that we should get a load of here?
Yeah, I do. It's actually it's there is a link to it, but it's not okay. Here's what it boils down to. Do you remember that thing on Twitter maybe a year or more ago that was like, okay, imagine an apple in your mind's eye and what do you see? And it sort of gave you some options, and one was like a sort of fully 3D apple, and one was sort of a flat apple, and one was a gray blobby apple. You remember this?
No.
Janet, did you see this?
I don't think I saw this specific one, but I've seen things like this.
So it's
So I'm
sort
curious
of
where you're going.
it's sort of the idea is to sort of demonstrate that just different, like the spectrum of ways that people see things in their mind's eye, and how alien it is when someone else describes the way they see something, right? So like for me, I can picture an apple in my head and I can rotate it around and stuff like that, but I have a friend who absolutely cannot even like imagine the picture of an apple when he closes his eyes.
What?
You know? Yeah, people like
There's a word
people
for that.
People are just have varying degrees of being able to picture things.
Okay.
So in the wake of this sort of thing, and in talking to some other people about it, I was like wondering what else about the way like I think about things is that I just take for granted. It's like maybe different, or other people don't see, like different from the way other people function.
Sure.
And one of the things that I found is that when you talk to me about like numbers or dates, that there's just sort of like an involuntary like number line that I see in my head. So it's like if I tell you to like count to 20 on a number line, you can consciously do that, right? Like you like, okay,
Visualize a number line.
you can you can like deliberately visualize a number line. But what I'm saying is that like there's just this sort of like spatial arrangement in my head that that doesn't even like consciously happen.
Weird.
It's just there. I just see it. And I was
So we're getting a load of your mind?
well, so I was looking this up to see what this is, and it's part of a phenomenon called synesthesia. So one of the ways. So I guess that'll be my like link is just like Wikipedia/synesthesia.
Yeah.
But it's just this fascinating thing about the way people's minds work and the way they can actually like synesthesia is about like tying your perceptions together.
Right.
So the thing about this that you maybe have heard about the most is like certain people, when they think about a number, might think about it as a certain color. Right. So it's like, oh, 4 is blue. And for that person, like for almost their whole life, like it doesn't change. For that person, 4 is just always blue when they imagine 4. I have a friend who like also has like emotions attached to numbers. Like the numbers 1 through 10 have like specific personalities in his mind when he thinks about
Creepy.
them. Yeah, it's just nuts.
Okay. So
Range must be really hard.
So anyway, so that just sent me down a rabbit hole, the synesthesia Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
So that's a weird thing I've been thinking about. Get a load of that.
There we go. For the AFI fans out there, we learned about synesthesia a long time ago. Great song. Hey, get a load of this. The Super Monkey Ball Twitter account won't stop. And they tweeted out that the Dreamcast launched in the US on 9/9/99. Now, 22 years later, the Dreamcast, Saturn, and Game Gear are rolling into the world of Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. And the new characters are just the console. So it's literally just a Game Gear inside of a monkey ball floating around. It is so stupid, but we are beyond the F-it point for guest characters at this point, because at this point, it's just throw everything in there. If it's silly, it'll get headlines and it works. So I'm very excited to play as a Game Gear in Super Monkey Ball. Janet, you got something?
Yeah, get a load of this. The Nick Jr. Twitter account had, they're celebrating Blue's Clues' 25th anniversary, and they had a video from Steve, who was the original like person there for Blue's Clues. And it's funny because in the video he looks like kind of like people have talked about how, you know, he has like these really big hipster glasses and like a hat. He kind of is giving like fake Moby vibes from that How I Met Your Mother episode where they thought they met Moby. But putting that aside, please watch the video because it's so heartwarming. Like, I don't know who, you know, if he wrote it, if like, I'm sure a lot of people wrote it and edited it and stuff, but like, it's just so well worded. And it's basically just him saying like, hey, you know, I went off to college and, you know, I did all these things and like, you grew up too. And like, okay, I'm getting like weirdly emotional talking about it because it's really beautiful where he's like, you know, saying things like, a lot of time has passed and, you know, some of it's been hard. Like, I'm sure, you know, you're aware of that. And we sort of grew together and I did all this like with you in mind. And like, it was just very moving.
Wow.
And then also, if you look at the replies, there are, of course, some hilarious memes. Like there's just a lot of good reactions of people like quoting it and then putting like crying memes and stuff like that. But it's honestly really well said. And it has like 34.8 million views, which is bonkers because the Twitter account has like 80,000. Because it's Nick Jr. Twitter account, right?
Right.
Following Nick Jr. 34 million views. Like if you haven't seen it yet, please go watch it. It's very moving.
That's amazing. Just the power of one good speech. Yeah, way to go.
Well, and I was curious. So, Janet, were you a fan of Blue's Clues? Like, was that in your orbit when you were growing up?
I was indeed. I don't know how year-wise, like try not to think too much about it, because every now and then I consume media that's like older or younger, and then it seems like, oh, so you're 80 or 8 right now, and I'm like, neither is true. But, you know, yeah, but I did grow up watching Blue's Clues. Yeah, so it was. I'm like, you're right, Steve. I do have student loans. It's rough out here.
Like Blue's Clues was like, I don't know, that was, I was too old. I was too old for that when that sort of hit its stride.
Yeah.
And I watched that also, and I found it very moving. But to see the response that it was getting from people who watched the show, there's an element of like, I think you had to be there to really get this, but you can still get something out of it even if you weren't a Blue's Clues fan, because it is a very well made and well written speech.
It's the video. Awesome. It's the good video game remake of speeches posted on Twitter. It's like, oh, if you were there from the beginning, it hits really hard. But even if not, worth checking out.
Yeah, there we go. There's a link for all this stuff below. We also pulled one from the community. There's a Get a Load of This channel. It's the best source of news in the world, on the internet at least, in the MinnMax Discord. There's a whole channel dedicated to it. Mike Lynch posted just one of these fun things, and it's not trying to poke fun at people from Scotland, because there's a million things I couldn't do, but this really made me laugh, and it's just fun to listen to. But there's a YouTube video called "Some Scots Can't Say Purple Burglar Alarm." So here's a Scottish person trying to say purple burglar alarm.
There's some Scottish people that kind of say purple burglar alarm, 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 burglar, purple burglar.
There it is, everybody! Purple burglar alarm. Congratulations, Mike Lynch. Thanks for sharing that. It got a ferocious head shake from Joe Juba. Hey, thanks everybody for watching and listening to this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. We appreciate it if you listen to this. You can always subscribe to the YouTube channel and watch the video version. If you watch this, you can always subscribe to the MinnMax Show podcast on your favorite podcast app. It's free, and you can listen to it at your earliest convenience. Let's see, plugs. We have a new episode of Better Quest up this week, the show with Jeff Cork and myself, where we set personal goals. We gave each other mystery goals this month, so we didn't know what we were going to get from the other person, and Cork gave me a good but simple one, which is take one recommendation every week. Instead of just somebody recommending something and be like, yeah, okay, just humoring them and moving on. It could be anything. I have to every week now agree to like, all right, I will actually do that thing that you recommended I watched or recommended I change my life doing. So that's a fun one to work our way through. But it's also, for the first month, we have a community-wide goal. So if you're looking for a good way to jump into Better Quest and set a personal goal for yourself, here's a nice entry point, nice easy one, nice and visual. Cook a new meal and share a picture with us on Twitter at MinnMax Show, on Instagram, MinnMax Show, or in the Better Quest channel on the Discord, and then we will share it. But just cook a new meal, take a picture of it, and share it, and jump in the Better Quest community, because it's a very lovely community. Also, heads up, the new episode of Trivia Tower is happening Monday, September 13th at 8 p.m. Central. We're going to be joined by Christian Spicer from the DLC podcast, also the official Last of Us podcast, also a professional comedian, going back to Weekend Confirmed. I've been a big fan of his for a while. So he is the co-host for this episode of Trivia Tower. Joe, do you know how Trivia Tower works?
I do.
Okay, great. So all you have to do, Joe.
It's let me tell you about it.
Yeah, please.
It's a gaming trivia game where you have a cool guest host who comes in, leverages their own special expertise to do several rounds, and at the end of it, there's some sort of prize, like Astro headsets or something.
That's right. Astro 840.
Unless it's the grand round, which happened in
Grand
June.
round.
Grand round.
We got to get out of our system. That's right. But if you jump in at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, even at that $2 tier, just 1 month for $2, you can jump in and compete in video game trivia. You support us on Patreon. You get access to the Discord link. Click on that link and you compete right there. You don't even need to download anything. This can be even in your browser for Discord. So let us know if you have any questions. But for $2, you help support independent games media. If you enjoy MinnMax, it's a great way to support us. And you can compete in video game trivia and win game codes for Aliens Fireteam Elite, It Takes Two, a bunch more options, and then an Astro A40 headset and Janet. This is a big special episode because you're welcome to play solo, but for 1 month only, we're introducing duos because this is... Okay, you ready? Are you ready with the echo, Janet? Okay. This is Trivia Tower, the Buddy System Edition.
Buddy systems.
Wow. It's like I'm in a cave. This is
You
unbelievable.
know what? Just say it a couple more times. We're gonna get there. This was I was not prepped for this pre-record.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's fine. That's fine. We're working
and
on
like 24
No,
hours.
Joe,
we
no.
ran around. Literally, I like heard it, and it was like reading sheet music. I was like, oh, don't mess this up. It's like it's too much to.
But
It's too much to do.
the way this works is you can
System.
invite somebody new to the Patreon. They have to be new. If you invite somebody new, have that person send me a message on Patreon and say, hey, I'm the buddy of this person. You two are now locked in as a team. If one person wins, you both win. Even just like if you make it to the third floor, if one of you makes it to the third floor, you both get codes. So you have doubled your odds of winning Trivia Tower for this month only if you invite a new person into the Patreon. And let us know if you have any questions. We're happy to explain. And let us know if you're confused. But we'd love to see you for Trivia Tower this Monday. All right, that's it for my plugs. Joe, what do you have to plug, man?
Well, I don't know. I mean, these days I have been doing a little bit of consulting, I guess.
Interesting.
So, you know, if you are listening to this and you are on the, business / development side of it and you want someone to do some mock reviews for you or something, reach out.
There we go.
That's what I can plug. Otherwise, I don't know. Be kind. Just be kind to people. There you go.
That's beautiful, man. That's really beautiful. Well, hey, thank you so much, Joe, for being here. We appreciate it. Janet, thank you for being here, being a champion.
Wait.
Yeah.
Does Janet not get to plug anything?
Oh, no. We can't allow that. Janet, the floor is yours. What would you like, Janet? If you could point people one direction.
Yeah, I would say it's funny because you're like, just be kind. And I'm like and subscribe to Pen to Pixels. That's my outlet that I have. It's pen2pixels.com, has a Twitter handle, has a YouTube. I've been doing my reviews on there. I've reviewed quite a few games. I'm quite tired, but I liked how all of them have come out. So please check that out. If you like my takes here, I think you'll like them even more there. If you don't like my takes here, try me there. More formal context. Maybe that'll do it for you. So either way, that's where you're going.
There we go. Awesome. Cool. Thanks everybody who supports us at the $50 tier. The thank you crew over there. If you support us at that tier, we record a custom private thank you video and thank you not only in the description of every MinnMax video and podcast, but also out loud right now. So thank you to Fixture Gaming's Fixture S1, I Am 8-Bit, Ludwig Roque, Zachary Pligge, Andrew Uerkwitz, Andrew Vala, BeatenDownBrian, PrettyGoodPrinting.com, Mirko Arico-Torreno, Jawarhello, Mark Seliga, Best of the Rest Podcast, John Higby, Call Me By Your Game Podcast, Clint Farley, Drew Waranis, Dan Villone, Ted Ryser, Steve Bamdad, Purebred Number 6, Clemens Zobel, Star Killer, Chris, Spider-Dan, Spiral in Your Eyes, Preetham Yarlagadda, and Thomas. All right, Janet, ready for round 2? And please join us for Trivia Tower, the Buddy System Edition.
Buddy system.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, everybody. Be good, have fun. Let's go.